There's Jasper in the picture. Give some folks a chance to join. Check the sound. Hi, TBC. How are you? Check, check, check. I'm not sure this microphone's working right now. Check, check. I don't hear anything. I think this microphone died. It was working fine the other day. I think it needs to be charged. All right, so now I think I'm gonna have to use earbuds with the mic. No? Just let the phone's mic do it?
Yeah.
All right, how's it sound? Hi, December. Hi, Julie. Hi, TBC. How's the sound right now? Because my external mic I wanted to use seems to be dead. Can you hear me okay? Is the music overpowering at all? December and Julie say they can hear me very clearly. Oh, good, good, good. So it looks like we have 5 folks. Should we wait a couple minutes, see if we get a couple more joiners? Are y'all enjoying your weekend? Did you have a good Thanksgiving? Now, if someone wouldn't mind, either Julie or TBC, if you wouldn't mind jumping on Messenger and just reminding the Pride-a-Doodles that I'm live right now, I'd really appreciate it. I can't do it because I have, my phone is all set up to stream, obviously, and I've got my iPad for the book, and for some reason Messenger doesn't work on my iPad anymore since I updated it. I don't know why. So I can't. Thank you, Julie. Appreciate that. Just to remind everybody that we're live, about to start this book that everybody voted on. And I'm just gonna keep drinking my coffee. So who all's here? We got Julie, we got TBC, we got December. Anybody else? Oh, TBC, you have a new Facebook account? Well, if I didn't know about it, I couldn't invite you. Maybe just jump on your regular one to see, but that's okay. You no worries. I'll be right back. December wants to know, how big is that mug? It's so big. Look at it. I think it's like 32 ounces. I got it at Marshall's a few years ago. It's my big ass cup of love. Carrie just made a face when I said that. She's sitting right here. Double duty. She's playing Fortnite while she's going to listen. I don't know how you're going to be able to pay any attention, but she thinks she can do it. December says, what? Yep. Happy birthday to my dad and to Meta's boyfriend Randy today, and to Rafa as well. I forgot it's also Rafa's birthday, but he won't be here. I don't think Randy will be here, and I don't think my dad will be here either, but Happy birthday to the three of them, nonetheless. Julie, are you back? I don't know. I think everybody else might be sleeping, so they might have to just catch the replay, you know? It will be on YouTube. Should we get started? Now, using the phone, I can't exactly see everything. Oh well. You can see Jasper over my shoulder. He's sitting on his little perch. Jasper, you want to say hi? He's like, no, I just want to sleep and soak up the sun. Okay, that's fine. Thank you, Julie. Oh, yeah. Sounds good, TBC. Oh, we got to hit the Do Not Disturb button. There we go. Good morning, Pam. Welcome. How are you? I am just getting ready to start reading this book. We voted on it yesterday on my stream. Me and Carrie in December all nominated a book, and December's nominated book won the prize. And this is what we're going to read. I love the tagline, "One mermaid will defy the gods." So let's get started. We'll be doing this every Saturday at this time, 12 p.m. Eastern, until we're finished. Now, I don't know how many chapters I'm going to read. I'm just going to read as long as I feel like. Maybe an hour, maybe two, I don't know. But let's get started. This is a work of fiction. It is dedicated, wait, let's see. The author, I gotta tell you the author, Natasha Bowen. And she has dedicated this book to her mom, who couldn't read very well, but made sure that she did. And there is a content note. Before you begin reading, please be aware that parts of this book may be triggering for some readers. Skin of the Sea blends 15th century history with fantasy, and there are depictions of violence, enslavement, death, and suicide. So that is the trigger warning. Chapter 1. I circle the ship with the sharks, slipping between dark waves. The water is layered with cold currents, sea creatures, and a ship that slices through it with cargo holds full of stolen people. I swim underneath the swells, away from the gaze of men, and just out of the reach of jaws, waiting. The hull of the vessel is a shadow above me, and as I follow the line of the keel, my chest tightens, hot rage building against my rib cage. I spin away as fish flit around me, stretching my fingers up toward watery sunbeams. It has been weeks since I have felt the burn of a midday sun. I miss basking in its light, letting the heat soak into my bones. Closing my eyes, I reach for a memory that twists and coils like smoke. I'm sitting on red-brown earth under the dappled shade of a mahogany tree, splashes of sun on my hot skin. Eagerly, I grasp for more, but as usual, the vision fades. My stomach churns with disappointment as sharp as red coral. Every time the loss feels the same, as if a part of me is within reach, only to dissolve like mist on the tops of the waves. I turn in the water, a shiver of skin and coils, of hair and scales that flash like buried treasure. Embracing the current, I let trails of seaweed run through my hands, feel the wisps of memories fade away. I pause for a moment as the shoal once again spirals around me, glittering yellow with delicate stripes of pink, letting the beauty of the fish soothe me. Diving down, I head farther away from the ship. I know I'll need to go back, but for now, I close my eyes against the velvet slip of the water, its coolness sliding along my skin. This part of the sea is darker, and I welcome being cloaked in an enfolding gloom. Below me, an eel slinks through the depths, its muscular body only slightly blacker than the water surrounding it. Go, I tell the creature, and in one inky slither it moves away from me. I sink deeper. Enough for the cold to seep into my bones. Enough for the glint of my tail to be swallowed by the dark. I feel the pull of a current, and for a moment I consider letting it take me, but then I remember the ship, and I tip my face toward the surface, toward the sun, and the domain of humans who breathe air. I swim up once again, my task fresh in my mind as I see the wooden hull of the ship plowing through the ocean. I'm reluctant to drift too close in case I am seen by humankind. Instead, I lurk in the midnight shade of the sea, the bellies of the great whites gleaming above me. They glide closer, flat obsidian eyes and teeth ready. I shudder, turning away from their large bodies as they track the ship, even though I am doing the same as they are. We both seek those that enter our domain. As the creak of the ship echoes in the deep, I stroke the gold chain that hangs heavy around my neck, its links cold against my skin. My fingers move over the sapphire that gleams in the murk. And then there it is, the water crashing and hissing with the force of a body entering. Bubbles rise and pop, leaving only the descent of splayed limbs and crimson-stained skin. I swim faster as a shark darts forward. Blood curls in the sea, red ribbons unspooling in the deep. Pushing my way upward, I try to ignore the copper tang in the water as I swim between the gray and white creatures. Wait, I command them as the body sinks. They circle impatiently, black eyes flashing. I turn to the person, catching a glimpse of their unseeing eyes and an open mouth, bruised and swollen. A woman, her skin a dark brown in the water. Black tufts of hair wave in the current, revealing more wounds on the side of her face. She spins slowly, and something in the line of her body speaks to me. There was no easy death here, I think, closing my eyes briefly. But then there never is. As I take hold of a hand the same size as mine, rage swells at the thought of another death that the sea will hide. The woman's body knocks against me as I hold her closer, until our hair intertwines. Cupping her chin, I look at her face and pause. The tilt of her mouth is familiar, with generous lips framed by full cheeks. Her hair floats free from rows of the 𝚂𝚘𝚛𝚢 style, black tendrils that I want to touch, to neaten. I look again and a memory stirs. She reminds me of... I try to focus, to tease the edges of it out, but it will not come, and the sharks glide closer. They will only listen to me for so long. My gaze rakes over the woman once more, but the feeling of familiarity has passed. I let it go. I let it go and remind myself that it doesn't matter. It is better this way, I think, echoing the words of 𝚂𝚘𝚘, to not remember who I was before. Leaning closer, I focus on the small glow that emanates from the woman's chest, just above her heart. I reach for the swirl of gold that grows brighter as it breaks free from her body. When my fingertips touch the essence, I close my eyes in preparation. Mo gaba yin, ni apeo yu ri ubukinapaji ia 𝚂𝚘𝚘 ti yu se apejoron irin ajo apeje. Ki ola du mare mu o de ile ni alewu ati alafia, I say, and then repeat the prayer that will glean the woman's soul. I welcome you. Gathered, you will be blessed by Mother 𝚂𝚘𝚘, who will ease your journey. May Aludumare take you home to safety and peace. Come forth. The warmth of the woman's life floods my mind. I see her as a child, laughing when she winds her arms around the neck of her mother. Then she's older, eyes alight with a different kind of love as she holds out a bowl of rice and peppered catfish. With shining dark skin and a wide smile, the man before her is beautiful. I feel her heart lift as he takes the food and their fingers brush. Later, she's tilling a small field next to a village. Fingers sprinkling seeds into the grooves she's created in the earth as she sings a song to Oko, the Orisa of crops. Her voice is sweet and high, rising with the heat of the day. And then she's holding a baby with the same grin as hers. She presses her face into the folds of the girl's neck, inhaling the child's milky scent. I smile, feeling all the jubilation she has felt and the love that fills her soul. When I open my eyes, the woman's essence hovers in the cradle of my fingers. I focus on the joy in her memories as I coax forth her soul, guiding it toward the sapphire of my necklace. The stone absorbs her essence, growing warm against the hollow of my throat. I hold the images of the woman's life in my mind and wonder if the village she came from still stands. If her people continue to wait for her, checking the horizon every day to see if she will return. Tatters of her wrapper drift in the water, a faded orange that was once as bright as the mid-afternoon sun. I look down at the hand still in mine, with its torn pale nails and jagged scars. She will receive 𝚂𝚘𝚘's blessing before she returns to Olodumare. It is the one thing I am able to do for her. May you be at peace, sister. 𝚂𝚘𝚘 will ease your journey back home. Releasing the woman's fingers, I turn away, not watching as her body sinks into the depths. A daughter, a wife, a mother. My tears join the salt of the sea. Khaleesi's style is cornrows, December says. Thank you. Oh, Julie just subscribed 19 months in a row. Thank you, Julie. And December tells us that keel is a noun, the chief structural member of a boat or ship that extends longitudinally along the center of its bottom and that often projects from the bottom. Ymojah can only be summoned on the 7th day, but I swim to her island the afternoon before. A small outcropping of sand, rock, and tufts of trees, it will afford me a brief rest from the sea and all its swallows. I still like to feel the sun on my legs, on my hair, to sleep and dream sometimes. A flick of a caudal fin stops me as I get closer to the island. I pause, the sapphire in my necklace glowing gently to let me know that another of my kind is close. 𝚂𝚘𝚛𝚢, the voice is like a vine, snaking through the water and teasing out the hint of a smile from me. I turn, sweeping my arms through the water in arcs, taking in the deep purple scales and round face of 𝚂𝚘𝚛𝚢. Remade by Ymojah when the first people were stolen early this year, 𝚂𝚘𝚛𝚢 is small, but her smile is large, her eyes reflecting every feeling that ripples through her. It is good to see you, 𝚂𝚘𝚛𝚢, she says, pressing her hand against her chest as the fans of our tails touch gently in the water, scales glinting. Although your search does not usually include this part of the sea. I mirror her welcoming gesture before cupping my jewel gently. I know I'm returning with a soul to be blessed. 𝚂𝚘𝚛𝚢 nods, her short curls in a soft, round black halo. Praise Ymojah for her unbounded love. She touches the matching sapphire at her throat and then cocks her head to one side, peering at me closely. What is the matter? You look not yourself. It's just... But the words won't come, and instead I find myself saying nothing, trying to keep my lips from trembling. The sapphire is cool in my grip as I look down at it, remembering the woman. 𝚂𝚘𝚛𝚢 floats nearer as my hair waves in front of us. May I? She asks. Nodding, I let 𝚂𝚘𝚛𝚢 sweep my curls away so that we can see each other's faces clearly. Her eyes are almost black in the water, but they shine with a reverence I know is missing from mine. I know you find this hard, 𝚂𝚘𝚛𝚢. 𝚂𝚘𝚛𝚢 pauses, thinking carefully before speaking again. But gathering the souls of those who pass in the sea is a way to honor them and bless their journey back to our Creator, Olodumare. She nods in encouragement, her smile beatific. It is important to focus on this and not be distracted by other doubts. Yes, I say, but my eyes don't meet 𝚂𝚘𝚢's, and there are still echoes of grief in me. Where are you heading to now? It is not the 7th day. You can't summon Ymojah yet. I know, but I'm going to her island to... I stop myself, knowing what 𝚂𝚘𝚢 will say, what she has said to me before. You are going to change. To lie on the sand and mull over memories of your life before. Why must you keep doing this, 𝚂𝚘𝚢? It has been 3 months since you have been remade. I like to feel like myself. I try to keep the petulance out of my tone, but I know it's still there. None of the other 6 Mamiwata change unless they have to. You mean you like to pretend you are still human, says 𝚂𝚘𝚢, her mouth pursed. I stay silent, glancing up at the watery sunlight. I'm still craving the heat of it on my skin and the way it will settle deep into my bones. But you are not a girl anymore, 𝚂𝚘𝚢 grips my shoulder, forcing my gaze to hers. You are more than that. We are more than that. Gathering souls to bless is what we were created to do. It is easier to leave who you were behind. Rejoice in that, sister. Let the sea swallow your memories and embrace what you are now. I lift my chin and nod. I think of the woman again, of her memories, her family. 𝚂𝚘𝚢 is right. I only remind you of this to make it easier. The others all agree, 𝚂𝚘𝚢. She holds me closer before releasing me, floating backward, melting into the darkness. Let your past go. 𝚂𝚝𝚘𝚛𝚢's faith in Umoja, in our task, should inspire me. I should let myself sink down, let the depths soothe me until it is time to summon Umoja. But I don't. I can't. I wait until I can no longer see the purple of her scales or the black of her hair, and then I look up at the sun that pierces the surface. With a push from my tail, I propel myself toward the light. My head splits the gentle waves of the sea, revealing the island. I swim to the beach, pull myself carefully across the shallows, and lie on the sand, letting the sun dry me. Two legs split from the curve of my tail as the golden dusty pink scales elongate, growing into a wrapper that tucks around my body. Small feet complete my human form, a dark brown that matches the rest of my skin. I blink against the bright clean of the day, thinking about the woman I found in the water. There was something about her that makes me think of wrappers spun with gold and the taste of yams, of rich voices echoing in the night. I spread my hair over the white of the beach and close my eyes. With the sun burning my skin and my hands grasping fistfuls of sand, I let myself dream in a way I never can in the sea. I run my fingers over the uneven walls of my home, warm from the heat of the day. The floor is freshly swept, and as I walk outside, the red sun sets the rest of the city on fire. I can see no one, but I can hear the voices that drift on the cooler breeze of the evening, and I know where everyone will be. I weave through the neat streets, feeling the contentment that comes with safety. The city is cocooned by forest, set out in concentric spirals that begin with the Alafin's palace and end with a great wall that encircles it all. When I reach the outer compound, I am greeted with the sight of the people. Most are seated around the smaller fires or gathered in groups, talking and laughing before the storyteller begins the tales of the day. My age mates gather round the mahogany tree in the main meeting space. The girls with their hair in apogee Elede style, fleeking the ends of their braids off the shiny foreheads, while boys crouch around games of ayu-ayo. All dazzle in wrappers of yellow, indigo, and red. Elders sit closer to the fire, most of them clutching dried papaya and fried plantain, late-night snacks offered by the Alafin's market that fill in the air with spice. It is only as I venture farther into the crowd, closer to the 17th gate, that I see my mother. She's standing against the tree, backlit by the fire. Her wrapper is midnight blue with stars picked out in silver and gold, repeating patterns that sparkle in the last rays of the day. As the principal storyteller, she will tell a story about Olodumare tonight. She always wears that outfit when speaking about the Creator, telling me that the fabric reminds people of when the world was made. She spots me weaving through the crowd and greets me with a huge smile, cheeks full over a large mouth, her brown eyes wide set, the same as mine. "What is it, Simidele? Is there a stain?" She cranes her head, twisting to check the sides and back of her wrapper. "No, you look beautiful, Iya." She walks to me, lifting both hands so that she can cradle my face. "And so do you, Oa Pejo Binrin in me." Releasing me, my mother twirls away before throwing a look over her shoulder. "Are you staying for my performance this evening?" I nod and she smiles again, dimples puckering the smoothness of her cheeks, a beauty mark next to the corner of her mouth. I watch as she settles down in front of the crowd, clasping her hands together and lifting her chin. Here is a story. Story it is. There are curls across the sky and salt in my mouth when I wake on the 7th day. My mother. The woman whose soul I gathered looked just like her. Hair slides from my face as I blink into the hazy pink dawn, my mother's features stamped upon my mind. On land, the memory does not snake away from me, and I hold it close, remembering the split of her smile and the dimples that would crinkle on either cheek when she laughed. My mother. In front of me stretches the sea, thick with waves. I sit up, smiling into the bones of my knees, happy at remembering her, if only for a while. I wipe the sheen of sweat from my face and look out to the open water where the sky is hanging low, clouds scraping the tips of the waves. I could stand if I wanted, but I don't. Instead, I close my eyes, hold out a hand, and trace the curve of my mother's imagined cheek, the quirk of her lips. The giddiness of remembering almost makes me forget what I am here for. But the sea reminds me, and the surge and crash of giant swells bring me back. I take a deep breath, tuck the memory away, and hope that it stays. Hope that when I am back in the water, I can still recall her face. Hope that the sea will not erase this, even though it always does. Olodumare is Yoruba for God. Cool. Julie says she knows a few boat terms from watching Below Deck for 10 seasons. So you already knew what the keel was. Hi, Meta. Is Randy with you? Happy birthday, Randy. All right, chapter 2. I stand with the sun on my back and the waves behind me as I face the tree line. The sapphire of my necklace sparkles as I focus my thoughts on the soul inside. And then I'm moving once again, doing what is needed in order to bless the woman's essence. Banana leaves hang down over tan trunks, their green a vivid lime against the white sand. Ignoring them, I bend down toward the low bushes with their spiky leaves and blooms of white and blue, Yamoja's colors. Each flower has a splash of gold at its center and a sweet honey scent that grows stronger as I touch my fingertip to a waxy petal, stroking the softness. Carefully, I select 7 of the flowers, snapping off their thick stems and holding them loosely so that they are not crushed. The walk back to the sea is slow, my legs not used to the motion now required of them. We honor the people whose souls we gather by blessing them in human form, so I don't complain as I feel the pops of small bones accompany each step. I stop when I reach the hard, damp sand, the breeze from the ocean stirring my curls. As I release the flowers into the shallow water, I lift my head to the sky, mouth pursed. Orisas can only be summoned with certain prayers and offerings. Unless called upon, they remain hidden from human eyes, granting blessings when they see fit, governed only by Olodumare. Yamoja mobu ola fun opelu pon ododo ponyi, I call, my voice high enough to be heard over the rush of waves. Popo bukun un mi pelu wiwa pa pe, fi ore ope fun mu pelu pe ti oni fun kuboko pon opo pe, epe si waju. The flowers fall into the water, each one gently floating on the tide. I stand back, digging my toes into the warm sand, and repeat my call. Yamoja, I honor you with these blooms. Please bless me with your presence. Grace me with the love you have for all your children. Come forth. 5 more times I say this, 7 in total, until the sea swells and then recedes, drawing back from the land as if scalded. Shells and seaweed and red crabs dot the bare sand as I run my gaze over unveiled black rocks. My heart races just a little bit faster, as it does every time I get ready to face Yamoja. I slow it down by taking deep breaths of humid air, savoring the feeling, one I won't have when I return to the sea. The exposed sand is marked with complicated swirls, fashioned by the tides and now seen by the sun. The waves draw out farther and farther, and I examine the slope of beach, struck by its beauty as always. I wait as the line of now distant water begins to grow. The jewel at my throat is heavy. I run a fingernail over the facets, remembering the woman's unraveling hair, the memories her soul showed me. A flare of grief burns through me. She will be blessed, I vow, and lay the sapphire down against the heat of my skin. Pushing back my shoulders, I match my posture and expression in signs of respect. I hold my position as the sea reaches the height of the banana trees before it surges forward. The wave is a giant tumble of teal, indigo, and turquoise as it rushes toward the shore. A cacophony of water and rocks fills the air, blotting out the calls of birds, and for a moment even the sun. The day momentarily darkens, and my skin itches in the heat. The sea calls to me, promising to soothe me with its coolness, and I push back the urge to run forward, to plunge myself into the wall of water. I must be ready to greet Yamoja. And just as it seems as if the wave will crash against the shore, destroying all in its path, the water pulses and then draws backward, retreating into a gentler swell that covers the bedrock, lacing the sand with white foam and strands of seaweed. The beach glistens, its newly decorated expanse leading to the clear shallows. I scan the sudden calm line of the sea, searching, my breath catching as I spot a ripple that grows larger. The sea undulates, shifting and flexing almost like a serpent, and then I see it, the tip of a golden crown. It splits the gentle waves, followed by obsidian coils shining with water. The Orisa moves closer to the shore as she emerges from the sea. Thick shoulders and onyx skin glow in the sun as she takes a step onto dry land, her dark blue scales shifting to form a white and indigo wrapper with threads of gold throughout. 𝚂𝚘𝚛𝚢. Her voice is both rough and smooth, like satin and sand and smoke. Twin combs hold back the mass of her hair, while a veil of milky pearls obscures the middle of her face. The smells of violets and coconut fill the air. She's so close that I can see the cowrie shells and shark's teeth that are woven in among her curls. I place my hand on my chest before bowing deeply, my forehead nearly pressing into the hot sand. Mother 𝚂𝚘𝚛𝚢. When I straighten up, the Orisa smiles, teeth that are sharp points emerging from her generous mouth. She beckons me closer, the delicate white gold that encircles her wrists and twines up to the tops of her arms glinting. I am blessed to see you. It has been a while since you have summoned me, 𝚂𝚘𝚛𝚢 says as she takes a step toward me, pearls clinking. She smiles, flashing curved lips. Praise Olodumare. I look up, the gleam of her black and silver gaze reaches me as I clutch my necklace. The jewel is warm in my palm, the only hint of what it contains. As the Orisa reaches for the sapphire, I think of the woman's eyes, so similar to my mother's. Something troubles you, murmurs 𝚂𝚘𝚛𝚢, drawing her hand back. Her head tilts, hair tumbling down her shoulders, a bulbous emerald glinting from the coils. For a moment I can't speak. All I can think about is the woman's face and her life memories. This soul, I say, swallowing hard. I think of the brown of my mother's eyes, the fullness of her lower lip. She reminded me of someone. 𝚂𝚘𝚛𝚢 drifts closer, the scent of violets growing stronger. And this has upset you. She doesn't ask me who the woman called to mind, and I don't offer. Instead, I look down at my bare feet, though I know my feelings are there to hear in the tightness of my words. Yes, I manage as I grasp at the memory I claimed and kept, of my mother in her star-splashed wrapper and of her smile. 𝚂𝚘𝚛𝚢 lifts my chin with one elongated finger, tipping my gaze to hers. Her eyes soften with sympathy, the silver muted now. I am sure you remember what I told you when you were remade just months ago, but let me remind you. The Orisa's voice lowers as she opens her hands, palms to the sun. The Oyinbo first came to our lands this year, greedy for power and resources. I watched as they began to steal people, taking them away on their giant ships. And so I left the rivers and streams of our lands and made the sea my home, following the people whose lives were fractured, taken, and forced on a different type of journey. 𝚂𝚘𝚛𝚢 pauses here, her voice cracking in pain. She takes a moment, breathing deeply as the pearls in her veil sway lightly. A journey that is eternally horrifying. Enslaved and stripped of their homeland, I wanted to ensure that those who lose their lives on the sea receive comfort and our prayers before they return home to join Olodumare. This I can do through the creation of Mami Wata. When she drops her gaze to me, her eyes glitter with fervor. It is not everything, but it is something. It is our honor. Same December. We're all tearing up, trying to control myself. Questions grow inside my head at her words. Why do we not smash the ships to pieces? Why do we not drag down those who sail them to the black parts of the sea? 𝚂𝚘𝚛𝚢 has always been plain speaking, leaving little room for discussion, but now I open my mouth to speak. The sharpness of the Orisa's glare stops me. Tell me, 𝚂𝚘𝚛𝚢, do you trust me and trust in the task I have given you? 𝚂𝚘𝚛𝚢 stares down at me, her dark curls swaying in the breeze. I nod. My faith in the Orisa knows no bounds, but it is always easier to surrender to her guidance in the sea when my memories ebb away, pulled by the tides. She runs a hand down my arm, lightly scraping the skin with her long nails. Do you understand all that I ask of you? Her fingers dig into the soft skin under my chin again, but I don't wince or pull away, staring back at the Orisa. Her pupils are large, slashes in her metallic eyes. Yes, I say. I realize my hands are in fists and force myself to unclench them. This is good, says 𝚂𝚘𝚛𝚢. She pulls me to her and presses her lips against my forehead, holding me in place with warm hands. All that you need to do, all that you must do, is to gather any souls of those who pass in the sea, and we will say a prayer to bless them on their journey back to Olodumare. This is your purpose. Nothing more, nothing less. The Orisa pulls away and looks down at me. I need to know that you understand this, 𝚂𝚘𝚛𝚢. It is important. Nothing more, nothing less, I repeat, nodding my head and dipping my gaze in respect. Good, 𝚂𝚘𝚛𝚢 says, her silver and black eyes still on me. Now, let the water set your memories afloat. Let it set you free from the pain of the past, of what once was. Focus on your task. The pearls of her veil clink together as she squeezes me tighter, so tight that my chest is crushed and for a moment I can't breathe. Blackness blooms at the edge of my vision, and silver stars, the same shade as 𝚂𝚘𝚛's eyes, sprinkle across the creeping dark. I know she's right. Of course, using the last of my voice, I muster a scraped whisper. To bless their souls is an honor. The pressure disappears as the Orisa releases me. My lungs fill once again. I look up to the curve of 𝚂𝚘𝚛's mouth as she smiles down at me to the sharp points of her teeth. True words indeed, 𝚂𝚘𝚘𝚢. Come now, let us say a prayer to release this soul together. 𝚂𝚘𝚛 stands before me, the white and indigo folds of a wrapper luminous in the sun. She holds out her large palms, beckoning me closer. I take a step forward and then another until the Orisa towers over me. She hooks a nail under the chain of my necklace so that the sapphire is held between us. It spins lazily in the sun, sparkles scattering on my skin. The Orisa presses her fingers to the gem, and I do the same. Together we cradle the jewel, its blue brighter than the sky above us. At the thought of the soul being blessed, I feel a calm spread through me. Better this, I think. Better an easing of her journey. 𝚂𝚘𝚛 smiles and I join her. Are you ready? She asks. Yes, Mother 𝚂𝚘𝚛. Then let us begin. The Orisa angles her face to the heavens, her rich voice strong. Arabinrim agaba e alafia nipe bayai. We welcome you, sister. Peace is yours now, I repeat, thinking of the woman's faded orange wrapper. Olodumare mpe pelu adura you, ase iren ajo, pepada se ile ni porun pedape pepe ata open impe. Olodumare is calling, and with this prayer, we ease your journey back home to your maker, your beginning, and your end. I think of her kissing her child. Abukun fun o arabinrin. We bless you, sister, I murmur over and over again, until the sapphire releases the soul inside, a gleam of light gold, a shimmer of essence that hovers in the air above us. May Olodumare bless you, we finish, as the soul spirals away from us and a sense of calm envelops the island. With our words, the woman is sent on her way home to Olodumare, the Supreme Creator. Oh, I should have shut off the ads for story time, shouldn't I? Maybe next time. Okay, but yeah, you can catch the replay on YouTube. The jewel feels colder at my throat as 𝚂𝚘𝚛 turns to me. Her smile is sharp beneath her veil, but her voice is soft. She strokes the sapphire of my necklace once and then bends down to embrace me. May Olodumare bless your search, 𝚂𝚘𝚘𝚢. Before I can answer, the Orisa steps into the sea in a flash of gold and pearls and brown arms that slice the surface. All that is left is the scent of violets and coconut, a sweetness that permeates the air as my gaze roams over the water. The trails of 𝚂𝚘𝚛's curls spread out across the waves are the last thing I see as she sinks back into the depths. I stand on the warm sand as the sun slides across the sky, crowning my hair with light. Breathing out, I thank Olodumare. Blessing the woman's soul has gone some way to calm me. But as I contemplate the sea before me, I linger once more over the memory the woman invoked. Stars on a midnight blue wrapper, and eyes alight with love, full cheeks and a voice that spins words like silk. My mother. I step toward the sea, holding her face in my mind. As the water washes over my feet and the scales begin to form, I feel the seeping of details. Pale gold and pink fabric turns to scales, and I can no longer recall the color of her wrapper. The sea reaches my thighs, stealing my skin and legs as well as the wideness of my mother's smile. As I dip under the waves, the sound of her voice fades, and I embrace the coolness, a balm to my sun-soaked skin. The sea takes me and I let it, but this time I don't allow it to have everything. The brown of my mother's eyes stays with me. I take it and tuck it away, bury it in the back of my mind, and hope that if I want to, if I need to, I can return to it. And with it, I join the salty currents and the creatures I now belong with. So good. Chapter 3. There is no sleep for me in the sea, and so when I break the surface to search for ships, the sun and moon are my constant companions. Sometimes I swim downward, taking comfort from the deep, from its darkness and the viper fish that often dart out of sight. Occasionally, I think I see flashes of a star-scattered wrapper, remember the smooth flow of words that spin images in minds, but it is never for long. Instead, my thoughts stay simple, merging with the sea and the creatures in it. It is easier to swim between the shifting blues, to skirt the dolphins that nudge me, calling me to play before I head back to the sky and the air to search. On the last day before 𝚂𝚘𝚛𝚢's 7th, I rise from the depths to discover that the sea and the sky have decided to conspire with each other. Clouds press low against slate gray waves that rise and fall in growing peaks, and the air has a thickness to it, a fresh musk that I can almost taste. I want to dive back down, to ignore the growing storm and the havoc it will bring, but it is then that I spot the sail, a flash of white in the meager light. A ship. I bob for a moment, letting myself be carried high by a wave. Even from far away, I can see that the vessel is larger than the one I found before.
Shall I play
Its
similar
main...
songs after your music ends with autoplay?
Alexa, repeat the album, please.
I'll repeat this.
A ship. I bob for a moment, letting myself be carried high by a wave. Even from far away, I can see that the vessel is larger than the one I found before. Its mainsail snaps in the wind as it rocks from side to side. I swallow as my heart lurches with the sea. The wind picks up, throwing thin needles of rain that sting my skin. I wait, the heavy wetness of my hair cloaking my shoulders. 𝚂𝚘𝚛𝚢's words echo in my mind. Honor. It is our honor. I swim toward the ship, fighting against the strong currents, choosing to slip just under the waves where the rain shatters the surface but doesn't pepper my skin. Sharks glide beneath me, twisting and turning, but I don't pay them any attention, nor they me. I am not what they want. When I emerge, the wind is sharper, rising with peaked waves that grow to the size of small mountains. The vessel is ahead of me, the curve of its dark hull scoring the surface as it cuts through the water. Faint shouts carry on the wind, and I make sure I stay close to the ship, just enough to watch, but not to be seen. And wait. The day pulls out, clouds and waves whip together so that it is hard to tell where the sky ends and the sea begins. I keep my position, watching as the waves, shot through with white foam, batter the ship relentlessly, wondering if the mass of shifting water will sink the vessel. Shuddering, I imagine shards of masts and sails and limbs and blood in the sea. A sudden pull of water draws me closer as a cry rips through the air. Thunder rumbles, followed by lightning that fractures the sky, ripping through the clouds to strike just left of the vessel. The wind brings more shouts as I am caught by another current. I fight it, pulling away from the tug of the deep, staying on the surface, eyes on the ship. There are movements on board, but I am still too far away to see properly. I hesitate, wanting to be closer, wanting to see. But I know it's too risky, so I swim down just beneath the waves in reach of the hull. Alexa, play the soundtrack to How the West Was Lost.
How the West Was Lost by Peter Cater, featuring our Carlos Nakai on Amazon Music.
As muffled shouts filter through the top of the sea, I glide underneath the wooden bottom of the ship. Peppered with barnacles and algae, its length spans only a fraction of the whales I am used to. I plan to surface on the other side of the vessel, but pause when the darkness shifts. The clouds must have parted momentarily, because a large shaft of light splits the water. I start toward it just as the depths are filled with a great crash, bubbles rising and bursting. As the small pockets of air dissipate, I see it. A body. Dark brown skin gleaming as it cleaves the layers of the sea. A boy, a man. No, somewhere in between. I reach out at the same time as he shoots through the water, the ship already speeding on, jettisoned cargo far beneath the waves. Black chains hang from bloodied skin, dragging him down as bubbles continue to pop and rise. I swim up as he sinks, my gaze locked on the pale soles of his feet and then the spread of his fingers. There is pain in every line of his body, and I feel it in my heart. I push it aside and focus on him, on honoring his life. Gently, I cradle a foot, pulling him to me. The chains knock against my side as I curl my arms around the muscles of his stomach. His skin is hot in the cool of the water, and the sea turns pink from his blood. So much blood. My heart thuds as our chests press together. His skin matches mine in heat, and I know that life must have only just left him. I place my lips next to the shell of his ear, the coils of my black hair brushing against our skin. His body speaks of the sun and of giant mahogany trees, their flesh a delicate brown beneath the bark. I turn him to face me, my fingers slipping down his ribs as I open my mouth to speak Umoj's words. But before I can begin, his eyes open, black pupils swallowing the white. In shock, I shove the boy away from me. He floats backward and into the dark of the sea, clawing at the water. I was not expecting to find someone alive. I've never found someone alive. The boy looks at me, his eyes large, wide-set brown eyes. The shade speaks to me, a rich color that reminds me of something, of someone. The water surges around me, plucking at the memories, but for once I yank back. A midnight blue wrapper, stars picked out in rich fabric. The memory is still there. I tease at it as the sea embraces us, a voice as smooth as silk. Here is a story. Story it is. The same brown eyes flecked with dark amber and the dot of a beauty mark too, this one just above a left eyebrow rather than close to lips. My mother. Tears escape, instantly joining the sea as a shark glides closer. Instinctively, I reach for the boy's wrists and pull him back to me. Eyes that were open begin to flicker as the last of the air flows from his mouth. He will die if I don't do something. Panic ripples through me, and I tighten my grip on him. With a push, I propel us toward the sun that is glittering through the water, wavy with ripples. A wide smile, full of joy, of love. I hold on to the recollection, letting it fill me as I swim harder and faster. As we break the surface, I'm still holding him, cradling his head against my chest. The water is choppy, and we bob together as he sucks in a deep breath. He's alive. The air is still thick with the weight and sting of thunder, but the clouds are scudding toward the thin red line of the horizon. The boy's skin is chilled now, his chest hitching intermittently. I look down at the tight curls on his head as his hands hold my waist loosely. He's alive. It's all I can think as I lift my face to the sky. Praise Umoja. The sea grows colder as I swim through the waves, my arms full of the heavy weight of the boy. He's still breathing, but not for long, not if I can't get him out of the water. Think, I tell myself as I look down again at his thick black hair, and then I see the fin that slits the waves. The shark dips back down, but I've already seen it, and now that I study the rain-slashed water, I can see more, at least 3. No, I tell them, go! One peels away, but the other 2 remain. I swim faster and pull the boy closer. His blood seeps onto my desperate hands as a dark shape cuts through the ocean towards us. I clutch the boy's warm body to my chest, trying to look under the waves. The sharks are not listening. I'm gonna get a warm up on my coffee. Be right back. Julie says, interesting and intriguing so far. I agree. Oh, and tragic and horrific and beautiful, like all together. Chapter 4. I swim away from dark fins and seething water. The rain is no longer pummeling the surface, but the boy in my arms is cold now, his warmth stolen by the sea. We ride the tall heights of waves, and I do my best to keep his head above the swells. If I don't get him somewhere safe, he will die. I think of the only land nearby, 𝚂𝚘𝚛𝚢 Island, just as the blade of a fin cuts through the water. Another does the same, and I force myself to take a moment to think. Holding the boy as high as I can with one arm, I dip my face under the sea and peer down into the depths. I make out the blue-gray backs of 2 sharks as they circle below. No, I tell them. Leave. Not this one. I watch as one of the creatures heeds my warning and sinks farther, but the other, the largest, remains. Pulling the boy's arms up and over my shoulders, I swim faster, dragging him, barely breathing now, through the water. I can make it, I think, as I see the rocks of 𝚂𝚘𝚛𝚢 Cove. The water churns and the boy cries out, but I dare not stop to look. I push all my will into my next command. Go! Now! I don't wait to see if my order has worked. I fix my gaze on the slice of sand just beyond the rocks. Knifing through the calm waters of the cove, it is only as I drag him closer to the shore that I really think about what I have done. I take in a ragged breath and blink. I've taken the boy from the sea. Saved him. My stomach twists as I think back to what 𝚂𝚘𝚛𝚢 told me just days ago. All that you need to do, all that you must do, is to gather any souls of those who pass in the sea, and we will say a prayer to ease them on their inevitable journey back to Olodumare. This is your purpose. Nothing more, nothing less. I was supposed to glean the boy's soul, not his body. This was impressed upon me, and I agreed. But he was alive. Should I have waited until he passed? Swum in the trails of his blood while his lungs filled with water? I shake my head. A thought, no, a memory, surfacing in my mind. Pain as angry as red fire and bands of iron around my ribs. The tightness of my chest made worse as the water presses down on me and I sink, hands clawing at the dark shades of blue, even though I am glad to be in the sea, away from the Oyinbo. A snatched look above. The ship, its hull black and large, skimming across the surface, leaving me behind. The feeling of peace at this, as my vision flickers even while my chest spasms, my eyes widen, and my legs kick against the blackness of the depths. A remembered burst of death that winds its way around and through me. With the boy's limp body cradled in my arms, I think of his brown eyes, the shade vivid, even that deep in the sea, and I know that I couldn't watch him die. Surely 𝚂𝚘𝚀 wouldn't expect that of me, of any mamiwata. I swim toward the land, eager to get him to the shore in safety. But as I pull him through the shallows, his long body scraping on the banks of sand, skimming just beneath the clear water, I wonder what to do with him now. The boy has lost consciousness during the journey, limbs and mouth slack, lashes black spikes against his skin. A dark blue wrapper is tied at his waist, covering his thighs. I drape him over the white sand as water laps at his feet and lean down to examine his face. With full lips and sharp cheekbones, his features resemble a regal terracotta sculpture. I reach for him and then stop myself from brushing the sand from his short coils when I realize his chest is still. Quickly, I heave him onto his side so salty water dribbles from his mouth. My relief at the gasp he takes disappears when I look down at his back. Strips of skin peel away to reveal the fatty white of muscle. I freeze. Bile burns my throat as I swallow it back down, unable to turn away. I can see now why the sharks were so keen. It is far worse than the wound above his eye, which still oozes blood. Anger pulses as I contemplate the wreck of his back, seeing the wounds for the lash marks that they are, knowing what was inflicted upon him. My fingers hover over the damaged skin as the boy coughs. I want to tell him to be careful of his wounds, but before I can, he turns and fixes his gaze on me. His brown eyes remind me again of my mother, of metallic stars on an indigo wrapper, and I slither from the last of the shallows without thinking, the sun pouring onto my tail. As the golden pink scales turn to brown skin and a wrapper smooth against the sand, I watch the boy stare as legs, knees, and feet form. It's too late to push myself back into the sea. His eyes widen as he takes in the length of my body, the wrapper that is formed, and is tucked tightly around me, the tangle of my hair. 𝚘𝚘 warned against revealing ourselves to humankind, but is this not different? He hasn't hunted or discovered me. I don't think he could harm me even if he wanted to. Besides, I think as the boy continues to stare, he's already seen me as Mamiwata. I haven't been this close to someone since I was remade, and I can't stop myself from moving nearer, taking in the small knots in his hair, the dry gray skin around his elbows. He is weak, and I can tell from the way he holds himself, one shoulder crooked. The boy watches me as I look down at his feet, so much larger than mine, and then back up at his face. The cut above his eye is open and raw. I reach out a hand, not even sure why. He pulls back, raising his fists, knuckles already scraped and swollen, the links of the iron manacles clanking as he straightens, leftover violence in his stare. Flinching, I step backward, my own fingers curling. We're both breathing hard, eyeing each other warily. I think of the pain he's feeling, what was done to him on the ship and before. Blinking back tears, I want to tell him that I understand, that I wouldn't hurt him, but I don't. I move away to give him space, and the boy lowers his hands, shoulders slumping from the effort. What are you? His words are ragged, slipping out from between crusted lips, white from the salt of the sea. He speaks Yoruba, I think. Mamiwata, 𝚘𝚘 incarnate, mermaid, I want to say. But instead, I answer, my name is Simidele. Please rest. He crawls into the shade of a large banana tree, as far from me as he can, before he loses consciousness once again. And speaking of banana trees, that's a banana tree right over my head, y'all. Walking back up the strip of beach, I am still shaky, the joints of my legs and ankles popping as they adjust to the slide of the ground. I stagger, almost falling, unused to taking more than a few steps. The sand, white hot with the heat of the day, burns my toes, slipping between them to scald the rest of my feet. I reach the shallow waves and dip between the sea's folds, letting my tail form, relishing the weightlessness that the water affords me. I look back at the shore, at the dark slump of the boy's body. I am not sure how long he will sleep or if he will even wake up. 𝚘𝚘 will only appear when summoned, but still an uneasiness threads through me. I've never found someone alive before. Perhaps I should have left him in the sea. And then I think about his torn body and my resolve hardens a little more. There has been too much dying, more souls in the last few weeks. His life is a gift, I tell myself, but what I should do next I don't know. The sea carries me, the current strong, pulling at my body. I let it. I could swim now and keep swimming until the island is a speck on the horizon. He's alive. I could leave him there and have no more to do with it. As I dive down in the clear water of the cove, I let myself remember the brown of the boy's eyes, the beauty mark just above his eyebrow. He will die if left on his own, and then my saving him will have been for nothing. But what else can I do? I graze a coral reef, my sudden flare of anger and frustration matching its redness. I think of the boy's flayed back, his wide eyes and ruined skin. I could take him to the mainland, but it's too far. He wouldn't survive the tides and the cold for long. If I hid him on the island until he was strong enough to travel, I'd have to make sure none of the other Mamiwata would see him if they summoned 𝚘𝚘 tomorrow. I sigh into the water. Despite my growing misgivings, I know that I can't abandon him. Somersaulting in the sea, I turn back to the island, the decision made. I'll help him heal and then take him to the mainland. He will need water and food, and I'll be careful to make sure he's not seen. I call to the fish that swim foolishly near me, darting out to grab a few from a school of sardinella. Dragging myself from the shallows, I clean and gut them with a sharpened rock before setting their carcasses near the boy so that he will have food when he wakes. The rock I keep, its serrated edge giving me comfort. I watch the boy as he sleeps, weaving a basket from leaves, leaving him only to collect some water from a small pool just inside the tree line. His skin is a reddish dark brown that almost glows. With broad shoulders and long legs, the boy looks to be roughly my age, no more than 17 or 18 years. I examine his large hands, and when my gaze reaches his wrists, I swallow hard. The black chains are thick links that encircle weeping skin. He must be in pain. I can't get the manacles off, but I can help with the welts. Leaving the bowl of water and the fish wrapped in a banana leaf, I head just beyond the tree line. The wild lettuce is where I remember it, longish green leaves and some purple flowers. I pick all I can carry and head back to the beach. The boy's chest is still rising and falling as he sleeps. Legs drawn up and curled protectively, he still looks big. Carefully, I crush the leaves and creep forward, gently folding the lettuce under the iron bands. There is just enough room, and as I tuck the last shred under the manacle, the boy jerks awake, moving faster than he should be able to. Before I can move away, he grabs my wrist with his other hand, grinding the bones together in a tight grip. I cry out and try to yank myself backward, but he hauls me against him, the smell of dried salt and sweat and blood thick between us. I look for the sharpened rock, but it's next to the basket I was weaving, too far away, and I feel a panicked kick in my chest. I open my mouth to speak, and his eyes fasten on me, gaining focus. "What are you doing?" he hisses, eyes hard as he looks around him. "Where am I?" I lift up the leaves, showing him, but it's only as he examines his other wrist, packed tight with the crushed plant, that he lets me go. I stumble backward, unable to stop myself from falling in the sand, feeling foolish and embarrassed. We stare at each other, my eyes narrowed in hurt and his shaded with regret. The boy rubs both hands over his head, turning to the sea. "I'm sorry," he says to the waves. His voice is scratchy, catching in the wreck of his throat, the sound that comes from someone who has screamed themselves raw. I sit in the sand for a moment more as my heart calms, his apology sinking in. Getting to my feet again, I pick up the leaves. It will help, with the pain and the healing. The boy looks up at me, and we let the silence stretch between us as we weigh each other up. And then he nods. I move toward him slowly, trying to ignore the uncomfortable feeling in the soles of my feet. He offers his wrist, letting me pack the last of the plant under his restraints. "Let me see your back," I demand, using his apology as an opportunity to get him to let me treat his wounds. The boy rotates stiffly, and I stifle another gasp when I examine his shoulder blades and the stretch of flesh down his spine. There are 3 deep gouges. I frown, my anger blazing again, before applying the rest of the crushed plant to the wounds. He doesn't move or make a sound, but I can see the side of his clenched jaw. When I'm finished, he doesn't say thank you, and I can't help but grit my teeth. He's in pain, I tell myself. Be patient. I push the basket of water and wrapped fish toward the boy. He slides his gaze from the sea, snatching a look at me. "It's for you," I say simply, nudging the food and holding the water out to him. He accepts the basket, not taking his eyes from me as he drinks greedily, water spilling down his chin. When he unwraps the fish, he fumbles, nearly dropping it in the sand. Catching it in his large hands, he eats carefully and slowly, chewing each mouthful properly. When he is done, leaving only the fish head, he picks the flesh from his teeth, wiping at his mouth. "It was you who took me from the water, wasn't it?" A gleam of curiosity illuminates his eyes as he shifts positions. "Where is your tail?" I say nothing as he casts his gaze over the shine of my wrapper down to my knees. "Into skin and legs?" I consider not answering, but I know he saw me change earlier. "Yes." As the word leaves my mouth, I think again about what Yamoja would say about showing myself to a human. Another rush of guilt floods through me. He opens his mouth to ask more questions and then stops. We watch each other, this boy and I, both fresh from the sea. His shoulders are still hunched, a frown rippling over his face, but he relaxes enough to take another sip of water. When he pokes at the leaves wrapped around his wrist and looks up at me, his face is alight with surprise. It feels better already. "Don't touch it," I say, turning away from him. He still hasn't said thank you. Did he believe I was that monstrous? And then I think about how he saw me, a shadow in the sea among the sharks, dragging him through the waves, and I turn back to him. "There's more," I say, holding up another sardinella. "The quicker he heals, the sooner I can get him off the island." The boy nods, his eyes moving over the vacant beach. I lift another fish from beside me, tearing it apart with my fingers, pulling its innards free. The food looks good, but I won't keep any for myself. He needs it more than me. And if he can heal faster, perhaps I can take him to the mainland in the evening. "We should clean your wounds properly." The boy shakes his head and waits as I gut the fish with a sharp rock. I lean forward to hand it to him, but when he edges away, I wrap it in another leaf and place it in the sand. It is only after I retreat that the boy grabs the sardinella, cramming the white shreds of flesh into his mouth. You don't want me to be near you, I say, twisting my damp hair around my fingers, stretching out the ringlets, keeping the rock close by. I could say the same about you, he says, and then stops, picking at the bones of the fish. The food seems to have given him the courage to speak as well as much-needed strength. It's not that, though. But it is that, I think, turning to scan the horizon, trying to ignore the way it makes me feel. As if I am something to be feared. Is he not too? With his fists and the anger I can still sense in him? I rub at my wrist, small bruises circling it. Where are we? This time the boy stays conscious enough for my answer. How far from the Oyo Kingdom? This is a small island. We're just over a day from the mainland. Why were you there? In the sea? The boy coughs, voice still rough. I turn back to look at him, seeing that his face is smoother now, the anxiety still there but not as fresh. He grimaces and shifts in the sand, his lips tilted up on one side with discomfort. I was there to help. I lay my hair on one shoulder and comb through the tangled ends with my fingers. Help? I pause, twists of black curls in my hands, thinking of what to say. But he's already seen so much, and so I don't see much harm in saying some truths. To bless the journey of those who pass in the sea. To collect the dead? A mango orange wrapper, bruised brown skin, and hair loosened from braids. If you wish to describe it that way. Yamoja, he whispers through cracked lips, eyes on me. What did you say? I ask, my voice rising in surprise. What do you know of Yamoja? I know she is mother of all Orisas. He is sitting up now, fingers wet from the fish, sprinkled with sand. I am struck by the stark planes of his face, the edges of his cheekbones, and the curiosity in his gaze. I know that she is protective and fierce. The boy is studying me again, eyes brighter now, but with a calculating gleam. I've heard stories of Mami Wata. Did Yamoja make you into this? He straightens his back, but still keeps his distance. Who were you before? His words feed my annoyance, and as my fingers catch on a knot in my hair, I tug angrily. Why must he ask so many questions? I focus on undoing the tangle and do not meet his eyes. I don't tell him that I can't quite remember, that part of assuming this form is the dissolving of who and what I was before, that more of my memories come back when I have legs instead of a tail, and that is why, unlike the other Mami Wata, I change even when I don't need to, because I want to remember who I was. That doesn't matter, I answer, deciding to keep it simple. What does is helping souls return to Olodumare. Then I'm thankful that you found me, says the boy in the last light of the day, leaning forward. I don't need returning just yet, but I do need something else. He lifts his hand and I shift away, thinking of his hard grip before. Seeing my movement, the boy stops, catching sight of the sliver of my frown, and then composes himself, drawing backward. What I mean is, will you help me? Yep, Jasper's sleeping. Jasper Doodle. Yep, still asleep. Here comes Luna. Come on up, Luna. Come on up. Here's my little Loon. She won't let me pick her up, though. Come on, Loon. Come on. I have already. I stopped for a moment, thinking of the shock of his eyes opening, of finding him alive in the water and dragging him here to Yamoja's island. The boy inches closer once again, the manacles on his wrists rattling. While he still takes care to keep his distance, his eyes are lit with a yearning that can only mean he wants something more. Simidele, please. I need to get home. It is the first time he has used my name, the first time a human has said it in months. The sound of it cracks open an ache inside me, and I find myself wanting to hear him say it again. Take me to Yamoja. His voice snakes around me like smoke, a thread of fear and longing twisted through it. My eyes widen in shock, my spine straightening. Why? I'm trying to keep him away from Yamoja, not bring him to her. She is a powerful Orisa? Yes, I answer uneasily, sliding a glance at the calm bay, half expecting the waters to part, ebony skin and a gold crown splitting the surface. Then she will surely take pity on me and help me get home, he says, voice low and eyes glittering in the bright sun. I'm begging you, please. The boy blinks and a solitary tear courses down the slope of his cheek before he wipes it away roughly. I need to get back to my family. If I don't, you may as well have left me in the sea to die. Chapter 5. I've already saved him, and now he asks more of me? I stand up, stumbling, my chest tight at the thought of helping this boy summon 𝚂𝚘𝚢. I dig my toes into the sand. You don't know how 𝚂𝚘𝚢 will react, I tell myself, even though uncertainty weaves through me. Perhaps she will be proud of you for saving a life. And then I remember the way the 𝚂𝚘𝚢 embraced me when we spoke of my task, the strict crush of her arms and my lack of breath as she squeezed me tighter. It would be better to take my chances in hiding him on the island until he's ready to leave. The boy shifts nearer to me, the closest he's ever been. Need traced in the lines of his upraised eyebrows. What's your name? I ask, looking down at him. The echoes of his desperate words lodge themselves further under my skin, fighting with my panic. The boy frowns, mouth in an unsettled line. Ade Kola, Kola. Kola, I say, rolling his name in my mouth as I look out to the darkening sea. I ache for its cold waves and their simple depths rather than the thought of metallic eyes and the stern curve of the 𝚂𝚘𝚢's mouth. I can't help you summon 𝚂𝚘𝚢, but when you've healed a bit more, I will take you to the mainland. No. Kola raises his wrists, wincing as the skin draws tight over his back. That isn't good enough. It'll take too much time. I need to be there soon. He hisses, a mouth quivering, and then shakes his head. Curling his fingers into fists, he slams them down onto the ground. I manage not to flinch, but I make sure that I'm not within Kola's reach. With his chest heaving and knuckles buried in the sand, I study the boy who seemed so helpless only a short while ago. His pain wraps around him in the set of his shoulders and the angle of his head. What happened to you? I ask quietly. Why do you need to get home so quickly? Kola is silent for a moment, and then he exhales, rubbing a large palm over his hair, sliding it over his face. I was taken and traded, put on the Oyimbo's ship a few weeks ago. That's the ship I was thrown from when you found me. His words loosen something within me, a memory of shouts and ropes and pale faces. I reach for it, but it snakes out of my grasp, and all I'm left with is a stomach twisted up in knots. I turn back to Kola and see the same shade of suffering on his face as he yanks his wrists apart, straining against the chains. I want to tell him to stop, that he'll make the wounds worse, but I don't speak. If I don't get home soon, worse could happen. His words are tightly spun with an ache that mirrors the one buried inside me. Kola closes his mouth on the last words, jaws clenched, but I see his lips trembling, can feel the anxiousness that rolls from him in almost perceptible waves. There is more, I think, but I don't push him to tell me. It wouldn't change the way he feels, the risk he is willing to take. I try to think of what 𝚂𝚘𝚢 will say, what she will do if I bring him to her. Will she punish me? Or him? I imagine trying to keep him hidden and 𝚂𝚘𝚢 finding out anyway. Surely she will know if anyone apart from Mami Wata is on her sacred land. It feels as though either way the 𝚂𝚘𝚢 will find out that Kola is there, what I've done. I touch the sapphire at my throat, thinking of the woman who sank beneath the waves and the glimpses of her life. I was able to bless her soul, but that was all. With Kola, I have a chance to do more. It is a risk for us both. I take a deep breath and release it, letting the words stream past my lips before I can think about it anymore. But I'll help you summon 𝚂𝚘𝚢. Kola raises his gaze, the last of the sun's rays illuminating the spark of joy in his eyes. Now? I shake my head, glancing at the sea. We need to wait for tomorrow. At least I'll have more time to think of what I'll say to 𝚂𝚘𝚢. Kola gets up in awkward jerks, eyes hooded. Why? He asks, tone sullen and spiked with anger. I purse my lips, sucking my teeth at his question. Not only has he still not been very thankful, but he also doesn't seem to have any patience. I wonder how he will speak to 𝚂𝚘𝚢 and feel another jolt of doubt at what I've promised. We must wait for the 7th day, or she won't come. Kola plucks a pebble from the beach and throws it, even though the movement will cause him pain. I can't afford to wait, he says. You have been away from your home for weeks, I state firmly, annoyance increasing in the volume in my words. One night won't make a difference. It will! Kola's chest heaves as he tries to calm himself. It will, he tries again, quieter this time. I turn away, kicking at the sand. Kola's tone is similar to that of a spoiled child, and his demands are wearing down what little patience I have left. When I walk stiffly over, the boy allows me to get close enough to see the grooves of his frown. Tomorrow is the Orisa's day, the only one she can be summoned on, I say, vexation sharpening my words. One night. I don't control it. It's that or nothing. Kola doesn't reply, but I notice the flare of his nostrils, the chunk of his fists. I step away from his anger, nursing my own, leaving an expanse of sand and cool air between us. The boy finally nods before stalking over to the rocks that rise, splintered and charcoal gray. He climbs the dark mass, perching above the beach as the waves crash against the shore. Kola's frustration is palpable, but I still flinch when he brings his bound fists down on a rock again and again, smashing the black iron of the manacles against the sharpness of the stone. It must hurt him, but he doesn't stop, letting his anger spur him on, swinging his hands down one last time before he holds the broken irons up. Kola's outline and the manacles are silhouetted against the moon behind him, and then he casts them into the sea with a strangled shout of rage. Afterward, his shoulders slump, slack from the exertion. I don't hold his anger against him. The manacles are a reminder of what he has gone through, and I'm glad to see them cast into the sea. The blackest part of the night sky presses against us when the boy returns to the beach. He sprawls in the sand next to me, chest still heaving, staring at the dark sea. So, tomorrow, he asks, and I take his words, his softened tone, as an act of appeasement. Yes. Kola does not speak for a moment, and we listen to the sound of the waves crashing against the rocks. I didn't think I would ever meet any Mamiwata. He swivels to look at me, face full of shadows. I don't say anything for a moment, tugging a curl. Get some rest. It will help you to heal. Kola watches me for a moment more before he moves away, doubling the space between us, making a pillow from the crook of his arm and a bed of the sand. It is not long before the hunch of his shoulders relaxes. I watch him breathe and remember the hitch of his chest when I pressed my palm against it, the warmth of blood pumping beneath skin. Then I settle in the cooling sand, trying to stop my eyes from closing until I can't anymore. The ship creaks around me, waves rocking a violent and unnatural cradle. It is dark, and the stench matches the grief and terror thick in the fetid air. A burning hot fear has worked its way inside every part of me. I can't tell where it begins and I end. I open my mouth to scream, lips pulled back, hands in claws, and... Simidele, Simi, wake up! I force my eyes open to a black sky sprinkled with stars. Kola is leaning over me, his hand shaking my arm. I sit up, hands checking my legs, curling my knees up so that I can wrap my arms around them. I'm fine. You were screaming, Kola says as I shrug him off. The memories that come back to me are not always the type I want. Some I will gladly let the sea take. We sit in the velvet darkness, listening to the waves crash against the shore. I remain silent, letting the night breeze wash over me, breathing deeply, clasping my hands around my knees so that I can't feel my hands shake. Kola does not touch me again, but I can still feel the press of his fingers on my skin. What is it? He is close enough that I can hear the catch in his voice. You were on a ship, I say, raking my fingers through the sand. You know. Welcome, Yummy Rocks. You've happened upon me reading Skin of the Sea by Natasha Bowen. And you can catch the replay on YouTube later to catch up on what you've missed. Here's chapter 6. Kola dozes as the sun rises in shades of peach and carmine, transforming the sea from a deep violet to a steel blue. I didn't fall back to sleep. I couldn't. Instead, I used the chill of the night to stay awake and focused on the crash of the waves until the shredded recollections faded. Next to me, Kola stirs. He sits up and then winces, looking down at his wrists. The poultice is dried and only clings to his skin in flakes. I'll get you some more, I say, pushing myself up before he can protest. Wait here. When I return, Kola watches me warily. I slow my steps, holding out the dark green leaves almost like an offering, wondering if he'll let me apply them. Shall I? He watches me as I stop in front of him, kneeling down so that we are eye to eye. I lift my hands and then stop, waiting. Kola looks down at the wild lettuce in my grip and then back at me. I try a small smile and slowly reach for his wrists. When he doesn't pull away, I let out a breath. How did you know what to use? I pause. I can't remember, and it weighs me down with a crushing force that makes me feel suddenly exhausted. But none of this has anything to do with Cola, so I shrug and continue to squeeze the leaves until they are soft and malleable before I wrap them in strips around the open sores on his skin. Thank you. Cola's words are quiet but firm and lodge inside me. I'm sorry again for grabbing you, for... You nearly drowned. I cut him off and begin to apply the wild lettuce to his skin. But his apology shifts something inside me as I do my best to be gentle. When both wrists are done, I layer the leaves on the wounds on his back, which are struggling to knit together, before I sit in the sand, still apart from him. Simidele, will we be able to summon Yamoja now? My eyes widen. I remind myself that there's no other option, but the thought of what the Orisa may say or do creates knots of apprehension that twist and tangle in my stomach. She may not grant you what you want, I warn, fingers in my hair, plaiting loose strands within my reach. My voice wavers slightly. I've never brought more than souls for her. Cola turns to look at me, and again I am struck by his eyes, brown but shot through with ochre. His face is open but watchful, and even though his height means that he towers over me, the sparse hair on his chin and his smooth cheeks give his age away. Will you be in trouble? The care in Cola's tone unsettles me, a reminder of his almost tenderness when he woke me from my nightmare. His fingertips against my skin. It doesn't matter, I want to say. It's too late now. Turning my back on the sea, I point to where the trees crowd against the beach, bushes with flowers dripping onto the shore. You'll need to pick 7 of those. Take only Yamoja's colors, the white and blue ones. Nodding, Cola heads in the direction I pointed. He takes his time choosing the flowers, and when he's satisfied with his selection, he turns back, cradling them in the cage of his hands. I like the way he holds them, delicately, so as not to crush any of the blooms. You must offer them to the sea, I say, fingers twisted as I think of how Yamoja will react when she sees this boy I have brought to her. Cola steps into the shallows, walking in up to his knees before he lets the flowers fall one by one. They float on the clear water, cresting each small wave before sinking. Use this prayer, I call, trying to keep my voice calm. You need to say it 7 times. Yamoja, Mobu olafun opelu awon ododo wonyi, jawu bukun umi pelu wiwa rete siwaju. He nods and repeats what I've said. Yamoja, I honor you with these blooms. Please bless me with your presence. Grace me with the love you have for all your children. Come forth. Oh my. Cola plants his legs firmly in the seabed, water lapping at the bottom of his wrapper as his words ring out across the sea. 6 more times he repeats the incantation, his tone unwavering. There is courage, I think, in standing in the water summoning a goddess of the sea. When the cove remains calm, a semicircle of blue, Cola wades back to the beach to stand by my side. Did I speak the words in the right way, he asks. And then the waves draw back, a sudden recession that startles a flock of birds from the tops of the trees, sending them soaring into the air, their caws loud in the stillness. The shallows retreat into the bay, the wind pushing the twists of my hair across my face. I wait, coils obscuring my view of the beach until the breeze cuts off, leaving a silence that is thick with expectation. I force myself to stand straight, to stop my legs from shaking, but my heart still pounds, a roaring pulse in my ears. Cola stares ahead of him, the only hint of his fear showing in the defensive set of his shoulders, as a wave that gains height and momentum swells at the mouth of the cove. The waters rush back in and the boy flinches. We watch together as the wave smashes against the shore with a power that I feel in my bones. Stay calm, I whisper shakily as Cola takes a small step back, though I find myself wanting to do the same. A figure emerges from the sea. 𝚂𝚘𝚛𝚢 pauses, her hair a black cloak around her shoulders, coils glistening underneath her crown, sharp and gold and shining in the sun. She steps onto the beach, her wrapper forming in perfect white and indigo folds, each sinuous movement bringing her closer to us. "Do as I do," I whisper as I bend my knees, lowering my gaze and all but pressing my forehead into the hot sand. I try to swallow, but my mouth is dry. There is movement next to me as 𝚂𝚘𝚢 folds his height into a bow. "Don't speak unless 𝚂𝚘𝚘𝚢 demands it, or I ask you." Dark brown toes reach the white sand in front of me as the scents of violets and coconut almost overwhelm me. I lift my gaze, skimming past muscular legs, past the bright white of the wrapper, edged in indigo and shot through with delicate gold threads, up to a thick necklace of bulbous pearls. "See me, Dele." Just the lowness of her tone makes me not want to raise my head to face the 𝚂𝚘𝚢, but I do. Her veil sways, mouth a slice of full lips pursed into a line. I lift my gaze higher to the flash of her eyes, which sparkle in a hard shade of silver. "What is the meaning of this, daughter?" asks 𝚂𝚘𝚢𝚢, swiveling her head to look at 𝚂𝚘𝚢. Beside me, the boy stands, wiping sand from his palms on the ragged wrapper tied around his waist. He looks at me, and I clear my throat, pressing my shaking fingers to my sides. At least he's not opening his mouth to make demands already. "Mother 𝚂𝚘𝚢," I begin, keeping my tone respectful. "Ade 𝚂𝚘𝚢 would like to request your help. The 𝚂𝚘𝚢 holds a hand up, stopping me. Gold rings set with unpolished diamonds and emeralds glitter from her fingers. She tips her head to one side. "How did he come to be here summoning me?" "I saved him." I lick my lips, tasting salt. "I pulled him from the sea." 𝚂𝚘𝚢𝚢 snaps her head toward me, the pearls of her veil clicking loudly. "You did what?" "I was about to gather his soul, but he hadn't yet passed." The 𝚂𝚘𝚢 swivels to face me fully. "Did you fail to remember your task?" Her words are quiet but needle sharp. Shaking my head, I form my next sentence carefully, trying to keep the rising confusion that mixes with anger out of my voice. "I saved a life rather than a soul. Surely saving someone is a good thing." "I didn't forget, but I couldn't let the sea and the sharks claim him. You speak of my purpose, but he was alive. To leave him would have meant his death." 𝚂𝚘𝚢𝚢 looks down at my legs and the shine of my wrapper. "And so you've shown yourself to him and brought him here." The hiss of her voice makes me wince. I look back at 𝚂𝚘𝚢 and think of his face when he saw the flick of my tail, the scales that melted into skin. At the time I wasn't thinking, flustered by the effort of dragging him to some kind of safety. Shame and heat rise and spread across my chest and up my neck. But then I think of 𝚂𝚘𝚢 slumped in the sand, the food he ate, and some of the guilt seeps away. The sudden roar that the 𝚂𝚘𝚢 releases causes me to stumble backward in the sand, losing my balance so that I fall hard. My heart slams against the wrapper, tucked tightly against my chest as I cower before her. 𝚂𝚘𝚢𝚢 raises her hands to the heavens, fingernails like talons as she screams again. 𝚂𝚘𝚢 clutches his ears as the cry grows louder, piercing the air. I hear the waves smash against the rocks of the cove, and when I dare to look up at her, 𝚂𝚘𝚢 stares down at me, a wall of water behind her. The blue mass shimmers, its weight held back by the 𝚂𝚘𝚢. For a moment, I think she will release it, battering the beach and us. I snatch a look at 𝚂𝚘𝚢, willing him to move closer to me. He would never survive. "Mother 𝚂𝚘𝚢𝚢," I say, raising a hand palm up, "please. When he's healed, I can take him to the mainland, and then no one else will need to know." The 𝚂𝚘𝚢 quivers, obsidian hair cascading over her shoulders in a heaving mass as she regards me. 𝚂𝚘𝚢𝚢 wavers, the corded muscles in her arms tight, as she holds her fists high above her head. She glares at me, lips twisted into a snarl, but in her eyes there is a gleam of fear. "Please." I stand and place a hand over my heart. I thought I was doing what was right. The 𝚂𝚘𝚢 regards me in silence for seconds that spread longer than I thought possible. And then she lowers her hands, and behind her the water drops, drawing back into the bay. I inhale deeply, checking that 𝚂𝚘𝚢 is still close by. His shoulders are hunched, but his eyes are sharp and watchful. 𝚂𝚘𝚢𝚢's fingers twitch, and the sea grows placid once again. Her shoulders drop as she turns away from us. "You don't." But the 𝚂𝚘𝚢 does not finish before she staggers and then crumples to the ground. Yemoja sits in the white sand, her wrapper spread around her like the petals of the flowers that we pick to summon her. Her face is angled toward her lap, curls a dark shroud that shield her from my gaze. "See me, Dele," she says softly, looking up at me through her hair. Her veil shines, iridescent strands of pearls that are tightly drawn across her nose and cheeks. A tear slides from underneath the milky orbs. What you have done will mean our deaths. What do you think, folks? Should we stop there? Or do you think we should keep going? How y'all feeling? I definitely need a quick potty break. I know that. So we should either stop or I should take a break. Either way. Let's see what y'all have to say. Trying to get to the bottom of the chat. Break for bladders. It's so good, isn't it? It's so good. I want to keep going, if you don't mind. All right. I'm going to have Alexa turn up the music so you don't hear me tinkle, and I'll be right back. Alexa, turn the music up to 7. Be right back. And I'm back. Oh, Julie's excited about this raffle. I am too. It's super fun. Pam's got to go feed the chickens soon. Well, Pam, you will be able to catch the replay. I'll be able to catch anything you missed on my YouTube channel a little later. I will create a playlist for this book. Why did saving him doom them all, Carrie wonders. Why? Why? Well, I think we're about to find out. Alexa, turn the volume to 4. Jasper, don't you want to wake up and come say hi? He's like, no, I'm perfectly content. And there's no cat in the chair. Maybe Scuzzlebutt will come and join us. Scuzzlebutt! Kitty, 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 kitty! Scuzzlebuzzle! Here he comes, here he comes. Scuzzlebuzzle, come on. That's my baby boy. Do you want to say hi to some Pride-a-Doodles? I know you do. This is my baby boy, Scuzzlebutt. He's so good. He's so good. Yeah, he's a good boy. Yeah, that's my good boy, Scuzzlebutt. Can't really see him. Here, sit on my lap. Get you up a little bit higher. Yeah, it's a cute baby Scuzz, my Scuzzlebutt. Yes, he's so good. He's so good. Are you gonna stay? I can move over. You can sit right next to me, little man. How about that? Oh, Teresa's joined us. Hi, Teresa. Hope you slept well. So don't forget, you can catch the replay of everything you missed on my YouTube channel a little later. Oh, and there's Jasper getting a drink of water. Did you see him? Charging like a little bull. It's so funny how he does that, isn't it? Aw, happy cats. Happy cats. So that's Jasper Doodle, and this is Scuzzlebutt. You're trying to be strong, Teresa? Because of your brother's cold? Oh, you'll be okay. He'll be okay. You'll be okay. We're all going to be okay, you know? Just got to have faith. Sending you some good vibes, right? Meow. All right, are you ready for chapter 7? We don't really want that in the picture, do we? No, leave it back there. Okay. Oh, sorry to hear that, Teresa. Okay, chapter 7. What do you mean? I ask Emoja, my voice cracking. She doesn't answer me. The curve of the Orisa's spine, draped with black curls, shudders once more as she remains bent over. I move closer, but the only thing I can see clearly is Emoja's shaking hands, long, slender fingers adorned with jeweled rings that catch the sunlight. They are hooked into the sand, nails slicing through the white as the Orisa begins to wail. The sudden cry builds, drenched in grief and anger and fear, her body trembling as it pours from her hunched form. Can Yamoja be killed? Does R mean all Mamiwata? I know we are strong in the sea and mortal as humans, but I hadn't thought about what could unmake us. Terror winds its way around me, pulling tight against my core. What could be so bad that Yamoja is reacting like this? I look over at Kola, but he is frowning and rubbing the back of his neck. The Orisa's cry peaks in a drawn-out sob that slowly quiets as I drop into a crouch beside her, so close that I can feel the heat of her skin. Mother Yamoja. The Orisa's spine straightens as I hear her suck a breath in, and she turns to face me, smoothing away the tears that escape her pearls. Help me, she says simply. Her eyes are glistening, but she lifts her head and holds out a hand that still shakes. As I rise to my feet, I see Kola on the other side of the Orisa. Our gazes lock for a second, and then we both bend down, taking Yamoja's hands and lifting her so that she can stand. I have spoken of my pain at what is happening, but what you must understand is the order of things. Olodumari's will and the decree that must be adhered to. Yamoja adjusts the twist of gold on her arms before continuing, her voice like black satin. To fail to follow this edict would be a great risk, a price I have paid in part already. I don't understand. Yamoja sighs and turns to face me, her lips pressed together. Let me try to explain. In Ile Ife, the first city on earth, All men were created equal, but they craved difference and begged the supreme God for it. In the end, Olodumare gave them what they wanted: separate clothes, languages, and lands. The Orisa stops to look directly at me. Can you guess what happened? Chaos, I answer simply, the word springing into my mind. Exactly. War and inequality followed and still do. Mankind fight over the very differences they once begged Olodumare to give them. Yamoja pauses and jerks her hand upward. A wave just beyond the shallows curls in response. And so Olodumare decided that humans would need to make their own way, learn their own lessons, and decreed that their destinies would be their own. Even Orisas were bound not to directly intervene in the lives or deaths of man. This was made clear to all deities. Have you never wondered why you are only tasked to gather souls? We bless them on their journey, I say, my voice small when I think of those discarded in the sea. And why do you think I have never wrecked the ships or commanded all of the 7 Mamiwata I created to do so? I say nothing. I think about her sorrow, the same emotion I feel every time we bless a soul. The thought of her torment burns within me, similar to the pain that tightens my chest in the sea. Creating 7 Mamiwata was risky. Olodumare saw it as a fracture of the decree. It did not go unnoticed, and once again I was reminded of the decision for mankind to have free will. Yamoja sighs, her hands going to the whiteness of her veil. Olodumare saw your creation as a blurring of the line, a disrespect of the rules that were set out. What does that mean? I ask. A cold trepidation catches at my breath, spreading through my veins and making my heart beat faster. What happened? Perhaps it would be easier to show you. Yamoja's fingers caress the golden clips at either side of her veil. She unfastens the jeweled grips, her silvered eyes on mine. There's a moment when she hesitates, and I feel a rush of apprehension. I have a feeling that I won't want to see what lies beneath, but I know I don't have a choice. I watch as Yamoja holds both sides of the mask of pearls and lowers them. The cry that escapes me is sharp, and I can't stop it. Yamoja tilts her chin, and the sunlight caresses her skin in soft golden tones that decorate the horror of her once hidden face. I breathe out and force myself to look, not to turn away. The slopes of Yamoja's cheeks are scored with deep vertical gouges, 3 on each side of her face. The ragged grooves pull and drag at her skin, beginning under her eyes and ending just before her mouth. I hold my chest, pressing against the hard beat of my heart. It is not so bad, says Yamoja softly, taking a step closer to me. Please do not be upset, Simidele. This was my punishment, and I took it gladly. In return, Olodumare allowed the existence of Mamiwata and the task I have set you. But that is all you are allowed to do. I feel a touch on my arm, and without looking up, I know it is Kola. He leaves his hand there for a moment, but I don't let myself take any comfort from the roughness of his palm. I shrug him off. Did Olodumare do this? I ask the Orisa, my voice cracking. I can't think of the Supreme Creator treating humans or Orisas like this. Distant but loving, all Olodumare has done is create and bless both. This doesn't make sense. Yamoja shakes her head, her curls swinging. No, I have only unbound love for the Supreme Creator, the Orisa says, a smile on her lips. Although I know Olodumare would be furious if I defied them again, my gratitude is eternal. So who did that to you, I demand, fury bubbling up in me. Yamoja's eyes darken as she frowns, silver flashing across them. It was Esu. Esu, messenger to Olodumare. Said to have over 200 names, which show his many sides, his ability to change form and master any language. I shudder when I think of his role as kinsman to the Ajogun, the 8 malevolent warlords intent on the ruination of life on earth. Only Esu can keep them at bay. For those reasons alone, Esu holds power unlike any other Orisas. It was he who told Olodumare of my creation of Mamiwata. Yamoja grips her veil, watching the pearls shimmer as she speaks. Although I am sure that if it were something he could have done, his view would be different. He was jealous? Umoja laughs suddenly, a harsh bark that splits the air. Asu covets what others have. His quest for power is insidious and constant. From stealing the loved ones of kings and queens to using other Orisas for their powers in the hopes of gaining more himself. And so he used Olodumare's decree to hurt you? All I know is that Asu was jealous that I was able to create you. After telling Olodumare what I had done, he came to give voice to the Supreme God, to deliver the message of displeasure and consequences. She pauses, touching one of the scars with a tapered fingernail, and to mete out the punishment. I watch as she clips her veil back into place, but the jagged scars have imprinted themselves on my mind. Realization settles in me like stone. So, taking Kola from the sea... Umoja frowns and brings her hands together, interlacing her fingers. It contravenes what Olodumare set out. Your actions have broken the decree I am bound by, the decree we are bound by, and one that Asu will only be too eager to enforce again, especially if it means the end of Mami Wata. I look over at Kola, who stares back at me. My throat is dry, and each swallow is an uncomfortable click as I think of how he grabbed me and the way he demanded to see Umoja. For him, I have risked so much. As if he can hear my thoughts, Kola lowers his gaze, shoulders set in awkward lines. But why would you not tell me, I ask, my voice rising higher with a frustration that is tinged with anger. I should not have needed to, Umoja hisses, hands in rigid claws, her talon-like nails glinting. You forget your place and your proper tone, Simidele. You are my creation, my daughter. All you had to do was listen to me and complete your task. I stay silent, words building, despair forming, an unleashed wave inside me. Umoja should have told me about the decree. How can I do the right thing if I don't fully know what it is? Shallow breaths match the rapid beat of my heart as I struggle to hold it all in. The other Mami Wata do what is asked of them, nothing more. They do not prance around my island in human form, pretending. They do not question me, and I did not think it was necessary. Her words release the tide of my anger, and I interrupt, my voice barbed with ire. You should have told me! Umoja glowers at me, her eyes bright with silver and rage. I created you and gave you your task. She steps closer to me. The task that you agreed to do just a few days ago. See me, Kola starts. Be quiet, I hiss at him. If he weren't here, if I hadn't dragged him from the sea and brought him to the island, then none of this would be happening. But then I think of him in the dark water, of the whites of his eyes when he opened them, of my first instinct to reach out and snatch him to me. He would have drowned. I unclench my fist slowly. Even if Umoja had told me never to meddle in a person's life, I know I couldn't have left him in the sea. My anger is layered with guilt, but none of my thoughts are stained with true regret. I cling to the rage instead, trying to take solace in its burn. Mother Umoja, should I have let him die? I ask, turning back to face the Orisa. Moments pass as Umoja glares at me but does not answer. Kola swallows and shows courage by stepping between us, uneasy in his stance. What now? What can we do to make this right? Perhaps I should have told you. Umoja's shoulders slump, but she holds a hand out to me. We need to set aside our anger. Now is not the time for us to be divided, daughter. Her rings glitter on each finger, her palm a lighter brown held up in the sun. I know that what she did, what she does, is all to help. Umoja, mother of all Orisas. She is resplendent and magnificent, willing to risk everything to ease the pain of those enslaved, and her compassion is all-encompassing. I recall her wide scars, and my rage dulls to a pulse as shame settles inside me. I may have saved Kola, but in doing so, I failed her. Mother Umoja, I whisper, taking the hand extended to me. I'm sorry. What can I do? Umoja pulls me into the heat and strength of her embrace, and it is like hugging both the sun and the moon, like fire and ice. When she releases me, she takes a moment to collect herself, standing tall, rearranging the curls of her black hair. Olodumare will find out eventually. Since your creation and my punishment, Asu has watched me even more closely. We will need to inform Olodumare ourselves and ask for absolution. The Orisa holds my gaze. After Mami Wata's inception, I fear I do not have much of the Supreme God's grace for me left. She brushes her fingers against the clips of her veil. Since it was not I who broke the decree, 𝚂𝚘𝚛𝚢, it is you who will have to ask for forgiveness. I look at Kola and back at Umoja, thinking of the other Mamiwata. If there's a way to save them all, I will take it. What do I have to do? Thanks, Pam. Have a wonderful day. Kiss those chickens for me. The need to make everything better thrums within me. I think of Folasadi and the others, of Mother Umoja and the wrath she risked to make us. I have endangered them all. I watch the Orisa walk toward the sea, her back as sculpted as the nighttime desert. We need clemency, says Umoja, as she regards the shifting waves. But will Olodumare forgive us so easily? I say, moving to her side. I do not know. Remember, it is not that Olodumare does not care about humankind, says Umoja, a line forming between the slash of her eyebrows. The sea whispers at the Orisa, but she ignores it. Olodumare's past interactions have colored how they see the world they created. I frown, twisting my fingers together. Is there any way that we could still use 𝚂𝚘 to gain an audience? Without telling him exactly, I hasten to add. As Olodumare's messenger, he could pass on our words. 𝚂𝚘 is not to be trusted. Not at all. Umoja barks, and I flinch. She lifts a hand, and a wave twitches, responding in a swell. As I told you, he thinks of himself and his own thirst for power. Nothing more. You cannot hope to trick the trickster. The image of the scars scored into those Orisa's cheeks pushes that thought out of my mind. You will need to summon Olodumare in a different way. Does such a way exist? I was told that it does, by the Babalawo who fashioned the sapphires into necklaces. I shift my weight from one foot to the next, feeling a dull ache in my soles. So the high priest will be able to help me? Better, the Babalawo has 2 rings in his possession, made from obsidian mined from Ile-Ife. These are powerful, very powerful. When they are worn together, you can recite a prayer that will initiate an audience with Olodumare. Umoja adjusts a golden bangle on her wrist, pursing her lips. They are also another reason that 𝚂𝚘 does not favor me. I would never tell him where they were. But why would he need them? Since he is Olodumare's messenger, he doesn't have to conjure an audience. And then I think of Umoja's earlier words of 𝚂𝚘's craving for power. He must hate it if anyone can bypass him and speak to Olodumare. Where can I find him? Breathing in deeply, I let hope bubble up within me. Gaining Olodumare's forgiveness will be our salvation. I just have to make sure 𝚂𝚘 doesn't get the rings. The Babalawo, is he close? The Orisa turns to the sea and is silent, contemplating its tranquil surface. The pearls of her veil catch the sun, an iridescence that casts a glow on her neck and chest. I'm not entirely sure. I last heard he was on the northern coast, but he's not there anymore. I rub my hands on the sides of my thighs, and so, you will have to find him. I can feel my face fall at her words and the thought of having to search on my own. I don't think the Babalawo will have gone far. Umoja walks back to the soft sand, leaving me to follow her. He will be close to both the sea and a large river. The power of those 2 bodies of water converging is one he will always seek and settle by. I think of how many rivers meet the sea. Kola coughs and then stops when Umoja swivels her head in his direction. The river Ogun is powerful, he says quietly. My village is close to it, as well as a Babalawo who we consult. Speak up, Umoja hisses as she drifts closer to Kola. I see his eyes go to the points of her teeth, just visible beneath her white pearls. What else? He has images of you. I see Umoja's features shift. Could this be the Babalawo she speaks of? A hint of relief shimmers in the silver and black of her eyes, the twitch of her shoulders. The sun spears through a cloud as Kola places a hand on his chest and bows. If 𝚂𝚘𝚢 will take me home, I will show her where the Babalawo is. What's the name of your village? I won't say, Kola swallows, his Adam's apple bobbing as he tries to stand taller and mask his nerves. If I told you now, there would be nothing stopping you from sending Simidele and leaving me behind. He fights it, but he can't keep the desperation out of his words. But I can promise that I will take her to him. My eyes widen and I suck in a breath at his words. No one should show such audacity when speaking to an Orisa. Umoja looms over the boy, but he doesn't flinch. She reaches out a hand, nails sliding down Kola's cheekbones and cupping his chin. What kind of effigies did the Babalawo have? They show you in the mountain streams, giving birth to all the waters of the earth. Kola's voice grows louder, the bass in it deeper. They show your tears at enslavement and your journey to follow those sold and taken across the different seas. Is that all? No, Kola answers. They show you and 7 others, all with tails and sapphires, like the one that Simi wears now. Umoja snatches her fingers from his skin, but doesn't take her eyes from his. A moment of silence stretches out as none of us moves or speaks. Simidele, you will accompany Adekola home. Her words are quiet but firm, and he will show you the Babalawo. Without giving him another chance to speak, the Orisa whirls away, her steps giant as she seeks the comfort of the sea. Kola looks over at me, eyebrows raised, but I ignore him and follow Umoja as she plays with the waves, pulling and pushing them against the shore. Is he right? I didn't tell him any of that. I believe you. The details he described are not common. The Orisa stares at the expanse of blue before us. Take him. I will teach you the prayer to summon Olodumare once you have the rings. The sea sighs again while I hold my breath. I think of the journey to the village and glance back at Kola on the beach behind us, respectfully giving us distance. I don't think he trusts me. I touch the bruises on my wrist. I don't tell her that I don't entirely trust him either. No matter. We don't have a choice, and neither does he. Umoja lets the sea rest and places her hands on my shoulders. You must be particularly wary of Esu. I picture the scars beneath her veil and shiver. You will do better to travel mostly in human form. This will limit rumors, and I would not see you hurt. Umoja's words don't frighten me. I'm more worried about anything else happening to her. Despite my yearnings, if it weren't for her, my bones would be deep beneath the sea. Is there any way he would know now? I glance around me, thinking of how fearful Umoja was earlier. A sliver of panic slices through me at the thought of my actions bringing harm to her. Could he be close? The Orisa shakes her head, pearls clicking gently and the gold in her crown flashing in the sun. Although he receives much information through the prayers and messages of humankind, he is not near. I would feel it. Orisas are connected. Alexa, repeat.
I'll repeat.
I touch the sapphire at my throat and think about how it pulses when any of my kind are close. Like Mami Wata. Similar, but with no reliance on jewels or talismans. If one of us is close, the other can sense it. Umoja pauses again, running her eyes over me. You are safe for now. But despite her words, the Orisa's brow is knitted. What is it, I ask, worry settling deep inside me. You are vulnerable like this. Here. The Orisa raises a hand to her crown, fingers scraping against the large emerald embedded in her coils. She uses her nails to tease it from her hair and reveals a slim, tapered column of solid gold. I watch as the Orisa snaps her wrist, and a razor-sharp blade shoots out from the width of metal. Press the emerald to retract the blade. Keep it with you at all times. It is strong and true and will cut through almost anything. I take the dagger gingerly, pressing the gem on the end. The blade slots back inside, and I copy Umoja by sliding the weapon between the braids that curve from my forehead to the crown of my head. I give a small bow of thanks and pat the dagger to make sure it's secure. Remember also that it is not just Esu you must be aware of. She holds my face, forcing my gaze to hers while she speaks. There is another reason to keep this body. Humans can often be cruel in their curiosity about the unknown. Do not trust them. I know the truth the Orisa speaks of, remembering the look from a fisherman who caught a glimpse of me. Disbelief, fear, and then the greed that slid across his face like a dark cloud over the sun. One more thing, Umoja says, drawing me closer so that only I can hear her. She takes her time, picking her words carefully. I know you sometimes remember parts of your life before, but I worry that it has clouded your actions. Keep the goal of this journey firmly in mind and do not let yourself feel too much. Not for any human. You are of the sea now. It is forbidden. I think of the way Kola is using me to get home, and I nod, annoyance settling in among the worry. You don't need to be concerned about that. That is good, says Emoja, as her eyes deepen to the dark silver of the sky on a stormy day. She blinks, hesitating before continuing. Because if you act on loving a human, your form will be revoked, and you will be nothing but foam upon the sea. Whoa. Alexa, play the soundtrack, How the West Was Lost.
How the West Was Lost by 𝚂𝚘𝚛𝚢, featuring our 𝚂𝚘𝚘 on Amazon Music.
Are you all still enjoying yourselves? Here's chapter 8. I dismiss the last of Yemoja's warnings. I know what I am and what I am not. Instead, I focus on Esu, messenger and guardian of the crossroads of life, a trickster who enjoys deceiving and creating division for enjoyment and his own gain. Still, I didn't think he was capable of the violence hidden behind Yemoja's veil. I touch a fingertip to the emerald in my hair, taking comfort in the blade it conceals. The heat of the day grows as the sun blazes down on us. Small clouds float high above, marring the perfect ultramarine sky. Kola drags out the boat that Yemoja tells him is hidden in her cove. Obscured by the hanging branches and leaves of an old banana tree, the vessel has a peeling wooden hull, silver from the sun. He stalks around the boat, energized by the thought of going home. A short but sturdy mainmast is intact, and from inside, Kola pulls out a folded sail, dusted with leaves, but usable. The boat will just about fit us both. I eye it uneasily. At least I can escape into the sea if the close quarters become too much. While Yemoja teaches me the prayer to summon Olodumare, Kola inspects the boat, placing green bananas and more of the wild lettuce inside. He finds an old water skin, which he rinses and fills with water from the bowl I made. Once Yemoja has made me repeat the prayer enough times to commit it to memory, we watch as Kola shoves the boat into the clear shallows. He leaps inside, and I run my hands down the blush and gold folds of my wrapper. We should head east, I ask. I feel a tremor of nerves, and as I look up at Yemoja, I know the creases of my face show it. The Orisa smiles down at me. Follow the main current east for a day, and it will take you to the shore of the land you seek. The river Ogun is 2 days' walk if you head through the forest. She leans toward me, the cloud of her hair tickling my face, and places a kiss on my forehead. I close my eyes at the warmth of her lips and open them to her wide smile. You will do well. In this I have faith. Mother Yemoja, I'm... Simidele. I open my mouth to speak again, but the Orisa stops me. Simidele, listen to me. I know you will make things right. What is done is done. We cannot change the past, only learn from it. What happens next is up to you. The sun tightens my salt-soaked skin, and as I sit in the prow of the boat, it feels strange to be above the ocean and not below it. Yemoja returned to the sea before we set off, making me repeat the summoning prayer to her one last time. Mo pe'e Olodumare. The words swirl in my mind as I let my hand dip into the waves, closing my eyes and remembering the slip of the water. Simi, how do we know we're traveling the right way? We're sailing east the way Yemoja told me to, but it's also the direction that the Oyimbo ships come from. I sit up, ignoring the scrape on my soles as I pull my knees to my chest. Kola holds his hand up to his eyes, squinting into the sun, which is slipping into the ocean. He unfurls the ropes with ease, and my interest is piqued. You're used to boats? I ask. My friends, we sailed a lot. Kola's voice falters, and he keeps his back to me as he adjusts the sail and secures the rope in a complicated-looking knot. I didn't lie. To Yemoja, I mean. My village is next to the sea and near the river Ogun. And the Babalawo? Kola pauses briefly, but he doesn't turn around. Exactly as I said. The waves roll our boat from side to side, but he moves with it, sure on the sea in a way I didn't expect. I can't stop thinking of how he all but demanded I summon the Orisa and the way he cajoled her into getting what he wanted. Eventually, 𝚂𝚘𝚘 can find nothing more to fuss with, and he sits down opposite me. You took a chance with 𝚂𝚘𝚘, bargaining with her the way you did, I mean. I had to. Why? He coils some spare rope around his wrist and forearm, muscles flexing. I told you I need to get home. And you didn't think I would take you? I say, fingers skimming over the small bracelet of bruises on my wrist as 𝚂𝚘𝚘 looks at me. If I had been in the sea, they would have healed by now. He sees what I am doing and sighs. I know I haven't shown you the best of me, 𝚂𝚘𝚘 grimaces, his guilt plain in the way he hunches forward, eyes fastened on the marks on my skin. But I couldn't take the chance that you would be content with just taking me from the water, as grateful as I was, as I am. He looks up at me, his eyes glowing. I'm not explaining this very well, am I? I shake my head, but I think of how I found him, of what had been done to him. I need to get back to my village, not just because it's home, but, 𝚂𝚘𝚘 hesitates for a split second, because of my family. And what else, I ask, remembering the fear and desperation in his words when he demanded I help him summon 𝚂𝚘𝚘. My brother and sister need me. 𝚂𝚘𝚘 looks away from me, picking up the rope again, uncoiling it. I should be there, looking after them. I thought I was when 𝚂𝚘𝚘 shakes his head and stops talking, taking the rope in both hands this time, twisting it slowly around his left forearm. They're special. He faces me, and I'm worried that what I did has put them in even more danger. Now I'm no longer there to protect them. There is a rawness to his voice. It fills his words with an urgency I can hear. You'll get home. Thank you, says 𝚂𝚘𝚘. He shifts in the boat, and our knees almost touch no matter how I angle them. For saving me. He puts the rope down and gives me his full attention. For showing me how to summon 𝚂𝚘𝚘. You are welcome, I answer softly. I begin to untangle the coils of my hair, loosely plaiting the ends. The boat feels too small. I think of slipping over the side, of diving down into the coolness. Instead, I slide the dagger from the braids at my crown, turning it over in the palm of my hand before I flick my wrist, freeing the blade, its sharpness bright in the sun. Did 𝚂𝚘𝚘 give you that? Yes, I say, tilting the weapon, admiring the way it gleams. And I don't get a dagger? 𝚂𝚘𝚘 asks, his voice light, teasing. What would you need one for? I'm the one taking you home. His eyes follow the blade, yearning plain in his expression. Are you jealous? I ask. 𝚂𝚘𝚘 stares at me for a moment, too long before he shrugs. Do you really know what to do with it? I don't try to hide the small grin that forms. As 𝚂𝚘𝚘 continues to watch, I snap my wrist, spinning the dagger in the air. The golden weapon glints as it somersaults between us. Snatching it by the hilt, I lunge toward 𝚂𝚘𝚘, holding the blade lightly against his throat. He swallows, Adam's apple touching the dagger. Ah, you do. But his response is blurred by the image of a man, much older than me, standing before me, showing me his stance. His short, wiry hair is shot through with gray, and a large scar runs from his hairline to the top of his left cheek. Not like that, 𝚂𝚘𝚘, like this. And he grips the dagger he's holding in such a way that his wrist is straight and locked in position. See? The man then flips the dagger, spinning it before reaching it up and snatching it from the air. Practice, so that you can protect yourself and others if and when they need it. He gestures to the smaller weapon in my hands. Now you. I copy the hold he showed me, the late afternoon breeze cool on the bare skin of my arms. My chest tightens momentarily as I squeeze the hilt. I don't want to disappoint him. Breathe, 𝚤𝚘𝚘𝚘 in me, breathe. I suck in a deep breath and then throw the blade into the air, my eyes on the weapon as it tumbles through sunlight. And then, just as I was shown, I reach for the dagger. My fingers grasp the leather hilt, but slip slightly as an errant curl falls into my face. I breathe out slowly, the weapon clutched in my hand triumphantly, but my knees shaking from what was a near miss. How many times have I told you, 𝚤𝚘𝚘𝚘 in me? Braid your hair so that it does not distract you. And with the last of his words, he leans forward and starts to loosely gather my curls. Despite his admonishment, he is smiling. I close my eyes and breathe in the smell of him, the faint tang of sweat and mangoes and hot earth in the rain. We will practice until it is too dark to see. Daughter. He called me daughter. I sit back in the boat, gently twirling the knife between both of my hands, fingers flying on the sharp gold weapon. With a click of the emerald, I push the blade back into my braids. We should rest, I say, cutting off any more conversation. Curling up on my side of the boat, I stare at the horizon, my chin propped up on the knot of my arms. My father. I hold the gray coils of his hair and his scent, which is still fresh in my mind. Closing my eyes, I go over the memory again and again. If I concentrate, I can almost feel the calluses on his fingers as he parts my hair, the deftness of his touch as he waves the strands in and out, creating a simple plait. See me? I don't open my eyes. Instead, I recall the smells of mangoes and earth, a pleased grin when I block his parry. See me? What? I all but explode, sitting up suddenly, causing the boat to rock violently beneath us. Look! Cola is pointing to the horizon, where the sun is heading in a fiery trail. I squint, holding one hand to my brow. Already I can feel the sound of my father's voice slipping away, and then I see what Cola is showing me. I lower my hand, clutching the wood of the boat, its worn grain like satin beneath my panicked grip. A ship. Black masts that look like spines, and a curved hull that plows through the peaks and troughs of the sea. A ship that looks just like the one Cola was thrown from. Oh my goodness. I'll be right back. Oh, that sounds good, Julie. I don't think Tom and Randy are here, but happy birthday nonetheless. And happy birthday to Rafa, too. All right. Chapter 9. Get the sail down, I hiss, but I know that we are most likely too late. The sea is a flat calm, docile after the storm when I found Cola, so we are very easy to spot. The ship seems to teeter in the distance, but it is moving fast, nearly as quick as the pulse of my heart. Behind the 3 giant masts, the sun lurks, blurs of orange and red that smudge the sky like dried blood. Cola's fingers fly over the knots as he works quickly to bring down our sail. His jerky movements cause the boat to rock, and even as I'm thinking about turning us around, the ship alters its course, the bow pointed straight at us. Cola has seen this too, and he sits down in the cramped stern. It would take too long to try to swim back to Umoja's Island, and I'm not sure Cola would make it so far, even with my help. Go, he says, wrapping the ropes around his fists. He looks at a sea that imitates the sky in a vivid azure, his mouth set in a hard line. I could slip underneath its surface, dive down to the dark, cool parts. My skin is already feeling tight under the sun, and my bones feel as if they're in unnatural formations. It would be so easy. Protect yourself and others if and when they need it. No. I grope for the emerald in my hair, extracting the dagger from my braids. I'm not leaving. Cola's eyes burn as he regards me for stretched out seconds. The muscle in his jaw ticks, but I don't change my mind. He lifts the small anchor, testing its heft, and as the ship draws closer, I flick the blade of my dagger free. We will fight. I will fight. Weaving my way through the dense forest, I lead my friend to the grove of pear trees. The feast altar my father's ceremony of knowledge would only be complete with some of the wild fruit that grows in the woods. Not long, I say, smiling at Ara. I'm grateful to have her with me, especially since the shadows are deepening. She plods alongside me, always happy to escape the chores of looking after her smaller cousins. Ara is the first to see them. Her nails dig into my arm, and I turn to see the Oyambo slip between the trees. We freeze. My heartbeat spikes, and for a moment all I can hear is the thump of it. They must be spirits with their white skin. One of them, much taller than the others, reaches us first, and I am startled by the pink slash of his mouth and the hank of brown hair that sweeps back into a straight tail. His smile is full of yellow teeth as he pulls a dagger from the leather sheath at his waist. The Oyambo behind copy him. As the blades catch the waning daylight, my mouth goes dry. I try to stop my legs from trembling. See me, says Ara, a plea in her voice. I've heard a few tales of the Oyambo from a traveling storyteller who had journeyed the length of the coast. He spoke of the cloth and new metal weapons the men trade with villagers in return for spices, gold, people. The storyteller said they were kidnappers too, attacking people, collecting water, or hurting their animals. By the light and warmth of the fire, with a belly full of chicken stew, the stories had seemed unreal. Now fear crawls inside me, slithering through my veins. Stay to the side of me, I hiss as the Oyambo move toward us. My voice sounds far away as blood thuds in my ears. I don't have my knife. I am scanning the ground looking for something to wield when the tall man lunges for me. I stumble backward, pushing Ara out of the way as he snatches my arm. I think of the moves my father taught me last summer. Twisting, I kick out, my foot connecting with the man's abdomen. The Oyambo makes a small, surprised grunt, his grip loosening. I rip myself free and drag Ara with me, scanning the forest desperately for a weapon. A dead tree lies near, its trunk shining bone white. Grabbing one of its thick branches, I swing it like a staff at the men. Ara rips off a branch of her own. I don't understand what the Oyambo says, but I can see that his eyes are hard, his dagger pointed in the gloom. My hands shake, but I don't let my staff slip. The other men fan out, creating a loose circle around us. They smirk, and I swallow my tears, snarling instead, not wanting them to see how scared I am. What will our mothers think if we don't return? The Oyambo rush forward, and I spin, whirling the branch, trying to create space for Ara to run. Go, Ara, I say. I'm breathing hard now, chest hitching. My fault, I think, as I turn away from the terror that gleams in Ara's gaze. This is all my fault. If I hadn't insisted on getting the pears. No, Ara frowns and adjusts her stance, bare feet shuffling in the dirt of the forest floor. I won't leave you. Go, I scream, and I know that I'm crying now, but I don't care. The Oyambo circle us. I manage to hit one of them on the shoulder, but another man wrenches the branch from my grip. Backed against a large tree, I push the fear away, embracing the fury rising within me. Come, I shout as they move closer. What will you do? I clutch my dagger as the memories rip through me, sucking the air from my lungs. I stumble and bend over as if punched. Kola stands before me, looking up at the hull of the ship. I was taken. This I knew, but it's one thing to know that it must have happened, and another to remember it, to have the images in my mind, to remember that fear. I shake, my legs bending as I fight to stand upright. I think of the same kind of men on the ship before us and let the burn in my chest spread through me, straightening my back until I can see the dark, wet wood of the hull looming ahead. The waves before us double, growing in size and violence because of the approaching vessel. Kola has edged me behind him. His back is a knot of scabs, some still raw and others closing slowly. Lashes he suffered from the Oyambo on a ship like that. I hold my dagger with intent, wanting to see how it slices, wanting the chance to use it. What do you see? I hiss from behind Kola as he tips his head back, looking high up at the ship's railing. The boy doesn't reply, but the rope slips from his hand, thudding quietly into the bottom of the boat. I move, shifting so that I can look past him. The side of the ship is peppered with barnacles, the wood glistening with sea spray. I squint upward past the figurehead of an intricately carved woman with long flowing hair and up to the sharp point of the bow. The triangular sails of the ship crackle in the wind, framing the forecastle. Several men holding guns and swords whose blades flash in the sun look down on us. The grip on my dagger falters as I scan their faces. The tallest peers down, a grin spreading across his face. His skin is brown as ours. Greetings, brother and sister. Will you board? Thanks for the follow, Loto. Kola turns around and I see the relief in the sag of his shoulders, but his hands are still clenched, knuckles tight. The creak of the hull breaks the silence. What do you think, he asks in a low voice. Why would they be sailing such a ship? I'm quiet for a moment, watching as the men unfurl a rope ladder, its woven rungs cascading down the side of the ship. I think of the Oyambo who sail such vessels, the deaths they cause, as if we are nothing, our bodies that they discard. We'll have to see. I think we should be careful, as Yamoja told us to. But it looks like we're going to find out what they have to say. Besides, we don't have much choice. I pick up the rope and begin to tie it around the bottom of the ladder and anchoring the boat. If we need to, we can leave quickly. Kola looks at me and then up at the ship before nodding. I'll go first. The coarse threads of the rope, frayed and rough, are tight in my grip as I hold the bottom of the ladder. Kola climbs steadily up and I follow closely behind him, my mind whirling as I try to think about what a ship crewed by men from our lands might mean. In the time since 𝚂𝚘𝚢 made me, I have never seen such a vessel or such a group of men sailing it. Despite my caution, I want to know more. When I reach the ship's railing, 𝚂𝚘𝚢 is there, holding a hand out to help me. I'm glad he does, because as soon as my feet touch the deck, I stumble, pain shooting up from my soles. I'm still not used to being in this form for so long. Among the rigging, gathered around the three masts and standing before us, are a crew of men and women who are all the same but different. The same in that they are all from our lands, in shades of brown, from tan to dark brown and onyx, but different in the people they belong to. Some have the simple vertical scar of the Ando on each cheek, while a few wear the vibrant cloth of the Aja from Alada. 4 men even wear the red head wraps of the Songhai Empire, their hands on swords tied around plain white agbaras. It's clear that there are no Oyimbo, and the crew's presence takes away some of my apprehension. As we are led across the deck, I watch my step, careful to place one foot in front of the other. The ship rocks from side to side, and I'm continually adjusting my gait, sliding my feet across the wooden planks cautiously until I come to the groove of the door for the hold below. I stop, my toes just touching the black outline of the hatchway. The space in the belly of the ship is dark, with only weak sunlight filtering through the wooden deck above. I don't lift my head from the hot press of my knees, slick with sweat and the salt of my tears. The air is humid, an almost solid beast that squats above us, and my lungs are tight from the heat and the stench of misery. I hold on to the memory of my last glimpse of land, its brown slice dotted with trees, framed by the churn of the sea. More water than I had ever seen before. With the waves up to my thighs and a scream rising in my throat, I had gasped prayers to 𝚂𝚘𝚢 before the wind snatched them from me and the Oyimbo forced me into a small boat. One man had been shouting on the journey to the large ship, hitting out at the Oyimbo. Despite his manacles matched with a ring of black iron around his neck, he struck 2 before they shot him once, his body tossed into the sea, where it lay floating in a cloud of blood that colored the waves in shades of red and pale burgundy. I shudder at the remembered sight, pushing my face harder against the skin and bones of my legs. The scrape of chains against the wooden planks is accompanied by cries and shouts in Yoruba and Twi. I keep my eyes closed tight, not wanting to see the crush of bodies, limbs heavy with the weight of chains. But I can't block out the sound of the sea, the clank of manacles, and the incessant groans of despair that float on the filthy air. Instead, I swallow my own cries, throat dry and raw, and I know that even if I wanted to scream, I couldn't. 2 more have died today, and even now I can feel the sickness. It slides under my hot skin, flowing through my blood and mingling with my fear. The only thing I'm more afraid of than dying in the dark, no breath or anyone to say my final prayers, is when the hold opens. A bright rectangle of white light that blinds us, a sign that some of the Oyimbo are coming to. 𝚂𝚘𝚢. My name pulls me from the recollection. I can taste it still, the terror. It's sharp on my tongue, coating my throat, slipping down deep inside me where it has nested before. I place a hand on my chest as if trying to push the beat of my heart back down to normal, taking deep breaths and focusing on the wind that stings my cheeks. I'm not in the hold anymore. I'm not. 𝚂𝚘𝚢, says 𝚂𝚘𝚢, and I realize he's been talking to the man who appears to be the captain, the tallest of them all. This is Abayomi, the captain of this ship. I force myself to open my eyes. Nearly twice my size, Abayomi steps back so as to not crowd me. His head is shaved, but for a thick braid at the back, which runs down to the nape of his neck, and he wears a wrapper as black as ink with tiny bursts of gold stars. Welcome, 𝚂𝚘𝚢. The man presses his broad chest with one huge fist and nods in greeting, his voice a deep rumble that is as soothing as it is powerful. The richness of his tone makes me think of my father. I still can't speak, not trusting my voice, so I nod instead, fluttering an unsteady hand to my chest in greeting. Abayomi was saying that they took this ship from a port. That is right. We are a crew assembled by the Awon Olori Abule. Abayomi adjusts strings of red coral beads that decorate his wrist, complemented by a heavier set hanging from his neck. Our leaders were shamed at the lies we believed and the discord sowed by the Oyimbo. Some of us were selected to work as one in order to take back those stolen from us. Lies, I ask, my voice softer than normal. I concentrate on standing, willing the muscles of my legs to hold me upright. Yes, lies spread by the Oyambo to incite violence among different cities and villages. It benefits them when there are more prisoners of war to be bought. Abayomi looks directly at me and I hold his gaze. We patrol the waters of our lands, attacking any slave ships. Fighting back. You said some of you. What about the rest of these people? Abayomi nods at my perception. Yes, the rest were liberated from such ships. Have you destroyed or taken many vessels so far? Kola asks, his voice colored with hope. 4 so far in as many months. They are sailing northeast back to their lands. The thought of those ships being destroyed brings me a joy I see mirrored in Kola. He looks over at me and smiles, his eyes bright. I know of another just a few days away. Kola turns back to Abayomi, stops and swallows. He looks down at the raw scars on his wrists. Do you think you could catch up to it? Abayomi takes Kola's hands in his, holding the back slightly. He frowns, eyes hardening. I am sorry that this happened to you. He pulls Kola in closer for a brief moment, his arm around the boy, squeezing. When Abayomi releases him, Kola wipes his eyes. If you can, I would like you to describe the route to my navigator. If we can locate it, that ship will be next. Abayomi surveys the ship before gesturing down the stairs. Come, join me for some food and we can talk more. We follow Abayomi down to the main deck, and I marvel at how they have adapted the ship. Despite its use before, the aura now is one of calm and quiet focus, everyone working together. We move past chicken coops and even a pen holding a goat at the sides of the deck before we come to the captain's cabin. It is cramped but draped with woven blankets in shades of orange, red, and yellow, the walls adorned with several depictions of Ogun rendered in small sculptures and paintings. 2 tall swords shine from a corner, their hilts carved from bone-white ivory. Abayomi ducks inside, holding the door and gesturing to the blankets that cover a sleep mat. Please sit. There is water in the jug. I'll get the cook to bring some food. The captain disappears toward the galley, and I move toward Kola, tripping slightly on the thick edge of a blanket. He steadies me with a hand as I lower myself next to him. What do you think? I say, my voice low. I never thought I would see such a thing. Kola's voice is full of awe. I think the same, but I also recall Yamoja and the caution she urged. Let's see what he has to say and then move on. Agreed, says Kola, but I can see the admiration and joy emanating from him as he pours water into a wooden cup and hands it to me. By the time I have finished drinking, Abayomi returns with a man half his size but just as wide. With hair that grows in black, white, and gray tufts, the man has a face that is open with a huge smile. You are lucky. You boarded just as Musa has cooked some pepper soup. The cook proffers bowls of food, rice as well as spice, he says, showing a large gap between his teeth as he lets out a booming laugh, grinning down at us. Kola's stomach growls in reply, and the men chuckle. We thank Musa, and he dips his head in acknowledgement before waddling off. Abayomi folds himself next to Kola and smiles as the boy eats. I cradle the bowl in my hands, letting the spice of the pepper mingle with the steam from the soup, and breathe in deeply. It has been so long since I've had such food. Slowly, taking my time, I scoop up balls of salty rice, pushing them between my lips while I let the soup cool. When I can wait no longer, I take a small sip and have to stop myself from guzzling the whole bowl. The flavor bursts on my tongue like no other, hot and fiery with a powerful kick. I drink the rest, savoring each mouthful. Abayomi listens as Kola describes the slave ship he was on, detailing the weapons and the number of Oyambo on board, and I feel a sense of peace that Kola will not be the only one saved. Abayomi explains how he was the one to attack the ship he now commands, taking it while it was docked. It is not something I ever agreed with, this trade with the Oyambo, of any kind. He sighs, sitting up straighter and glancing at a brass sculpture of Ogun, the Orisa of iron, and one who despises injustice. At least this way I can do something about it. We are silent a moment before Abayomi clears his throat and splits his gaze between us both. So, will you tell me how you both came to be in the middle of the sea in such a small boat? I have just pushed the last of the rice into my mouth and am chewing as he asks this question. Darting a glance at Kola, I hope he will remember the caution Yamoja pressed upon us. And then a sudden worry courses through me. What if Kola decides to join them, or asks Abayomi to take him home? I don't even know where the Babalawo is. The rice sticks in my throat, forcing me to take a gulp of water to swallow it down. Simi came across me while she was on the sea fishing. Just after I had been thrown overboard, The storm was bad, but it meant no one saw her. I put the bowl down in relief, its hard bottom cracking on the wooden planks of the floor. It is not entirely a lie, but I wonder what he will say next. We were pushed farther out by the strong winds. Kola gestures around. And then luckily we came across you. How far until we reach land? One day? Abayomi slides his gaze from Kola and contemplates my silence. I can tell that he doesn't fully believe what the boy is saying, but he's also seen the wounds on his wrists. Those welts are not something that can be made up. Where did you sail from, 𝚂𝚘𝚛𝚢? A village on the coast, I answer, keeping my words simple. A fishing village? You know of many? Asks Kola, pulling the conversation back to him. He tells Abayomi of the coves and rock formations on the western shore, the way the jagged coastline makes entering and leaving almost a complicated dance between the shallows and boats. It is not far, not even a day, Abayomi says, spreading his palms wide in the small space. The wind must not have blown you as far away as you thought. This is excellent news, says Kola. Should I speak with your navigator before we leave? Or do you have all you need to track the ship I was on? Abayomi gets to his feet and we copy him. The cabin feels much smaller when we are all standing. I have enough. Let me furnish you with some supplies before you go, just in case you are blown off course again. I snatch a look at Kola and he raises his eyebrows. We would be very grateful, he answers. Thank you, I add. Abayomi smiles and I know he senses we haven't told him everything, but he's willing to help us anyway. I send a grateful prayer to Olodumare and step out of the door the captain holds open for me. As we head back to the forecastle, I glance around at the crew as they scurry across the rigging and swarm about the ship, each doing their part to keep such a large vessel going. Abayomi asks a boy who looks to be the same age as Kola to get some food and fresh water, and we wait, a growing breeze ruffling our wrappers. I still can't believe so many have come together in alliance. I run my gaze over them, trying to count the different types of people on board, and then I see them. 2 older men linger near the mainmast, wearing dyed indigo wrappers covered with white concentric circles and slung low around their waists. They speak together, but their words are taken by the wind. We wind our way through the market, passing stalls selling everything from leopard skins and mangoes to small silver daggers with prayers to Ogun carved into their simple wooden handles. It's busy today, and the air is full of the smells of turmeric, nutmeg, and black pepper, and the spiced aroma of cooked goat. Calls and greetings mingle with varying levels of haggling, and even a full-blown argument between a large round woman and a wiry man. An elder soothes them as they argue over the price of a bulbous terracotta pot, its painting and gloss making it more expensive than the man wants to pay. If I were on my own, I would weave through it all, straight to my favorite fruit stall. It's run by an auntie who always wears a grass green wrapper. She sells the freshest papaya and all of Oyo eel, and always puts aside the ripest for me. I would gorge myself on the sweet bursts of the fruit, wiping the juice away before I fetched everything my mother had sent me for. But today we are all together as a family to buy something special, and we head for the stall closest to the palace compound entrance. Fabrics hang in folds of color from rich burgundy to gauzy swaths of light violet. With the soft curve of her back and her white hair in neat braids, Mobolaji sits to the side of the stall, smiling as my mother approaches. The old woman is well known for the highest level of quality cloth in all of Oyo eel. A new wrapper for one of the chosen scholars? Mobolaji asks. I heard the news this morning. My mother's face almost splits with the size of her smile. That is right, Auntie. Only one of a dozen announced each year. Please tell me you have some of the official cloth left. Of course I do. I set some aside for you specially. I watch as my mother bows, clasping Mobolaji's hands and cooing over the fabric as she pulls out from underneath a pile of plain cotton. The thick waxed cloth is a deep indigo, decorated with interlocking white circles. Made only for the Alafin scholars, it is one of the rarest designs. I edge away from their chatter and run my hands over a fabric I covet every time we visit the stall. A pale and delicate yellow, shot through with gold, the diaphanous material feels the way I imagine a wisp of cloud would. I run a finger over a section edged in bright gold and try to tamp down my desire as it nearly swallows me whole. I will buy this one day for you, 𝚂𝚘𝚛𝚢. My father is next to me. You deserve a wrapper as beautiful as you are. I let go of the material and lean over to kiss him before my mother pulls him to her and holds the indigo cloth against him. He runs his fingers over the raised circles of the waxed surface. You've earned this, Baba, I say as he grins at my mother. I stand back, admiring both of my parents as they clutch the deep blue cloth, faces filled with broad smiles. When my father wears the new wrapper for the ceremony of knowledge, along with all the other newly appointed officials, I know that my heart will burst with pride. The men are from Oyo-Il. They must be, and that is where I am from. I sag against the railings, wanting to sink to the deck and go over and over all that is coming back to me, but I don't get the chance. The sky swirls, whipping to a smear of charcoal gray with slashes of pale blue. I grip the wooden rail as a sudden wind stirs, wrapping itself around the ship, pulling at the rigging and the lateen sails. I press a hand to the fabric of my wrapper. Something doesn't feel quite right. I glance around, scanning the deck. Women and men shout, calling to one another as they scurry about, securing ropes and trying to get to the sails. All looks normal, but my stomach lurches in a way it does when there's danger in the sea. I drop my gaze to the water, examining its surface for anything unusual, but the blues and grays shift and heave in their usual waves. For a moment, a large swell rises, and I think of Olokun deep beneath us, but then I remember how the Orisa is chained to the bottom of the sea, destined never to see the sun or moonlight again after trying to flood the earth. Breathing in deeply, I feel a small relief when Kola returns. I am already used to his lithe movements and the greetings he has for all on deck. He stops to help a man finish securing a barrel with large, tight knots, and as he heads toward me, I see light in his eyes and a small smile on his lips. He opens his mouth to call to me just as a crack of thunder rends the air. Kola flinches, arms raised to his head automatically. I start toward him, the feeling of wrongness strong and acute, as a burst of lightning tears through the clouds, missing the ship by mere feet. I cringe, dropping into a crouch as Kola skids down beside me. Above us, the clouds are being torn apart. My heart stutters, starting again as another bolt is thrown from the sky. There is only one Orisa who can control lightning. Sango, I whisper, panic coiling deep within me. I'm not sure Kola hears my words, snatched by the unnatural wind, so I point up at the Orisa, who looks as if he is tearing a hole in the very fabric of the sky. How's everybody doing? I need another quick break, and then I think I'll do 2 more chapters. What do you say? Alexa, turn the music up to 7. Be right back. All right, we got some lighting issues, don't we? Alexa, set your volume to 4. Oh, thanks, Teresa. Thanks, Carrie. Everybody still awake and enjoying the book? I sure am. What do you think? A couple more chapters? Okay. Chapter 10. The 𝚂𝚘𝚘 aims another bolt of pure energy at the sea. It's closer to the ship this time, and Kola holds his arm over us as a shower of sparks rains down. Sango rips through the last of the clouds, fully materializing among the shreds, eyes shot through with silver and slabs of muscles gleaming. Legs like baobab tree trunks emerge from a red and white wrapper heavily edged in thread that matches the metallic glint in his gaze. The 𝚂𝚘𝚘 is twice the size of Yamosha, with coils of fire around both ankles and white forked energy twining around his wrists. Sango opens his mouth to roar, the long twists of his hair standing on end as he glares down at the ship. In one hand, he wields a giant double-headed axe, its edges crackling with blue lightning. I cross my arms over my head, cowering against the side of the ship. Why is he showing himself to humans unsummoned? And why is he attacking us? There's a small moment of calm, the air singed and close, when I dare to sneak a look up at the sky only to see another 𝚂𝚘𝚘. Oya, she who tore, an 𝚂𝚘𝚘 who can command winds and storms, and one of the fiercest warriors ever known. She floats next to her husband, hair a mass of black that almost eclipses the last of the sun. I see her lips moving as her arms wheel gracefully, drawing the energy of the wind and sky to her. If Sango releases what Oya has harnessed, the ship will be destroyed. Is he aiming at us? Shouts Kola next to me, eyes narrowed. I can't answer. I'm not sure what's going on. But as Oya raises the tips of her fingers to the top of the clouds, I brace myself. When the 𝚂𝚘𝚘 lowers her arms, it feels as if she has taken the pressure from the air and crushed it down on the sea. My ears crackle, popping as the compression increases. I drop my head, and all around me I hear men and women moan as they cover their ears. Sango hovers next to his wife, a sphere of lightning gathered in his large hand. He moves his open palm, massaging the crackling energy so that it grows until it is doubled in size. Sango brings one hand behind him, the lightning gathered in it, brilliant against the blue of the sky, and then catapults it down at us. As the bolt soars through the clouds, the ship fills with fresh gasps of fear. The scent of burning is overwhelming as Sango's lightning smashes into the bow, ripping away part of the ship's rail. A large woman leaps up, muscles flexing as she grabs a bucket of sand and throws it on the flaming timber. Despite the screams, as Sango gathers another ball of energy, the woman is joined by 2 others, smaller and wearing red wrappers, who beat the last of the smoldering wood into submission. The shortest woman looks up into the sky and places a hand on her broad chest, screaming up into the wind and clouds Oya has created. Whatever the rest of her prayer, her fierce words seem to have been heard, and Oya swoops to Sango's side, stilling his fists, which are wreathed with blue and white snakes of lightning. The 𝚂𝚘𝚘 descends, her hair a crown of tight spirals. As her feet touch the deck of the ship, the air on board stills and all is quiet. Around the vessel, the wind continues to screech and whirl, sucking waves up into gigantic summits and throwing needle-thin spikes of rain horizontally. Peering up at Oya, I forget the pain in my ears for a moment, struck by her beauty. With a high forehead framed by tight curls, her nostrils flare as she surveys us all. Twists of gold are spun around every elongated limb, and a wrapper of deep purple flutters in the wind. Oya tilts her head to one side at the sight of the people writhing in pain at her feet, large opals glimmering from the depths of her hair. With a flick of her wrist, the pressure is lifted. I sit up, shaking my head slightly, but freeze when I see that Oya is looking straight at me. I try to scramble backward as the 𝚂𝚘𝚘 stalks the deck in my direction, but I am already pressed against the railing. Be calm, says Oya. She stops, not coming any closer. Who is in charge of this ship? I open my mouth to speak, but don't have the chance to answer. Sango lands on the deck with a crashing thud. Metallic blue sparks still fly from the tips of his fingers as he swings his large head around, twists of black writhing in the breeze. Where are they, Oya? His voice is loud and raw, and his eyes flash, the whites making his pupils look like tiny silver specks. Oya lifts a hand, not looking back at Sango, who stomps toward her. The ship shakes with each one of his footsteps, and a few of the wooden planks of the deck splinter beneath his gigantic tread. All is not what it seems, husband. See for yourself. Oya smiles, revealing the whiteness of her teeth. This ship is not crewed by the Oyinbo. Sango pauses, looking down at those around him as they press their foreheads to the deck beneath them, showing their supplication and honor of the Orisas and this unexpected appearance. This is a tale of the storytellers will tell for generations. Such is rarity. Oya takes a step closer to me, and I force myself to bow before meeting her gaze, trying to stop myself from shaking. The Orisa peers down at me. Her eyes are large and rimmed with short but thick lashes, the silver of her eyes flashing in the meager light. You! She gestures for me to stand, and I do, wincing as the bones in my feet and legs click from squatting. Tell me what is going on. This ship is one that carries people sold as goods. It was, I say, raising my voice so that it can be heard over the wind, but it was taken by a man named Abayomi and is now crewed by the men put together to fight against the Oyinbo. Sango draws level with Oya in time to hear my last sentence. His thick eyebrows draw low over his eyes. He's still on edge, fingers flexing around the handle of his axe, but Oya places a hand on his arm. Look around you properly, husband, she urges. The Orisa scans the men on the ship, his gaze roaming over each one before he turns back to face his wife. Oya is quiet a moment before she speaks to me again. Where is this Abayomi? I am here, comes the reply from the forecastle deck. Abayomi picks his way past the small davit where the ship's boat is stored, and as he walks, the crew rise tentatively behind him. Sango turns to the captain, and I am struck by the fact that as tall as Abayomi is, he is dwarfed by the Orisa. Abayomi bows respectfully, eyes on Sango's axe, and I can't tell if his gaze shows fear or envy as it slides over the weapon. While the captain explains how he took the ship and their task, I use the time to watch the Orisas. Like Yamoja, Oya and Sango have black eyes with hints of silver, but these gods are larger, gripping weapons that could destroy the whole ship in a moment. After Abayomi has finished explaining, I force myself to step forward, curiosity fighting with my fear-tinged respect. Oya, I say, lowering my head as I bow before the Orisa, if you would permit me to ask you something. The Orisa faces me but does not speak. I take her silence to mean she agrees. You came to attack the ship? Oya steps closer to me, her gaze as keen as the blade in her large hand. The Orisa dips her head near to mine, and the scent of mint and the tang of ice-cold water roll over me. We are destroying as many of the vessels that carry the enslaved as we come across. We will not sit back and watch. We will not leave the pleas of our people unanswered, adds Sango, his rumbling voice as deep as the ocean beneath us. Even if it means Olodumari's wrath? I ask, my curiosity uncontainable, apprehension wrapping around it like a paper-thin shroud. The Orisa turns to me, eyes matching the intensity of the storm still whirling around the ship. We will not stand by, bellows Sango, only calming when Oya places her hand on his arm. Even if it means we have to face Olodumare, the Orisa adds, courage in the angle of her raised chin. Besides, Esu is not relaying all that he should to the supreme god, only that which serves his favor or gives him more power. It is in his interest to have us on his side. The Orisa tips her head. I know Esu and his tricks. We will take our chances. Abayomi, you and the others on this ship show great courage and integrity, declares Sango as he faces the captain and the crew behind him, planting each foot with a loud crack. We will come with you. The Orisa runs a thick finger over the edge of his axe blade, triggering white sparks of energy that crackle in the still air. And together we will destroy as many ships as we can find. Abayomi grins, nodding at Sango as the crew murmur and smile. While Sango asks questions in a booming voice, Oya moves even closer to me, and I resist the urge to take a step backward, overpowered by the scent of mint and the thickness of the air. I lower my face in deference, a sliver of panic kicking in as her fingers reach for me, pointed nails painted the same purple as her wrapper. "May I?" asks Oya, her voice deep and smooth. I wait for the heat of her skin on mine, but her hands don't touch me. They stop at the sapphire on my necklace. I freeze. How could I have been so silly as to leave it out in plain view? But Oya lifts the jewel gently so that it glistens in her palm, and when I look up at her, I see both questions and understanding in her eyes. "You are of Yamoja?" My tongue stills and I wonder what to say. Oya tugs the sapphire gently, her purple nails sharp on its blue surface. "I would know one of Yamoja's sapphires anywhere. What are you doing on top of the sea with legs and not scales?" The rings fill my mind, but I don't say a thing. Oya studies me, her eyes bright and quick. "Esu has told us he will not tell Olodumare of our actions, but we had to pledge our allegiance to him." She glances behind her at Sango, who has his large back to us. "We are to remain vigilant for something he is trying to find. Something Yamoja told me long ago that she knew about, but would never tell him. He told us to see if we could learn what he could not. But I will never betray her," says the Orisa, her voice deep and low. "And now you are here where you should not be." I open my mouth and then shut it, worry coursing through me. If I tell Oya, will she let Esu know? Oya sees me hesitate and snatches another look at her husband. Sango is speaking with Abayomi, gesturing with large hands that still crackle and glow with white energy. The Orisa stoops down so that she is closer to me and speaks even more softly. "Perhaps I can help, but only if you tell me why you are above the sea." Oya smiles, a gentle twist of her mouth that seems almost out of place. I know of her love for humankind and you, her creations, and I know the price she paid. The Orisa's lips flatten into a line as her slivered eyes gleam. "I would not see Yamoja hurt again." The emotion in Oya's tone coaxes some of the truth from me, and perhaps she can help. I'm looking for the rings of Ile Ife. I need them to seek Olodumare's forgiveness. "What did you do?" My face burns and I snatch a look at Kola. "I broke a decree. If I can't summon the Supreme God, Yamoja and the other Mamiwata will..." I stop, inhaling deeply before I can go on. "I want to keep them safe, and the only way to do that is to find the rings." The care in your words shines through. Oya releases my hand, though she still towers over me. "I do not know where they are, but I can tell you this. Be wary." Curiosity catches me as I squint upward at the Orisa, the setting sun behind her giving her a flaming halo. I open my mouth to ask more, but Sango has his eyes on us now. Before I have a chance to say anything else, the Orisa draws back, her manner becoming more detached. "Esu will want to know how many ships we find, husband," Oya says loudly, feeling his gaze even though her eyes are still on me. "Remember, we promised we would tell him all of our encounters." The storm swirls just beyond us, the air licking close, a crackling energy that I can feel in my very bones as I shiver. I understand what she's trying to say, that Esu has them helping him, keeping a lookout while they track ships. Sango turns away as Abayomi asks him a question. Checking that her husband is not watching, the Orisa darts forward once more, bending down to whisper in my ear, her breath as cold as a winter storm. "You seek the very same rings as Esu, so you will need to be very careful. The rings of Ile Ife are powerful in many ways. He has told us he is closer than ever before to obtaining them." Oya turns back to Sango before I can say anything else. Unease builds as I slip the sapphire into the top fold of my wrapper. Oya's words repeat in my mind as I edge my way back to Kola. I think of Yamoja and the other Mamiwata. Esu wants the rings, but I need them. While Oya and Sango roam the decks, some of the crew trail after them, offering prayers. Abayomi approaches us, gripping a large sack. "Supplies, as promised," he says. "I had a feeling you would want to be on your way." "This will help us," Kola says, taking the food. "Thank you." He clasps the older man in a half hug, and I know he's thanking him for what is to come, for the hunting down of the ship he was on, for revenge and liberation, using Orisa magic and the rage of people who are always willing to fight for freedom. "May Yamoja protect you on the sea," offers Abayomi. "And the same to you," I answer as I follow Kola to the rope ladder that slaps gently against the side of the ship. Abayomi said it'll take half a day to get to land. Kola slings the sack across his back, tying the ends so that it's secure for the short climb down. The wind still buffers the ship, the ladder swaying, which means we should be there just before sunrise. I thought perhaps that you might have asked him to take you back home. Even as I asked Kola the question, I realized that I could be putting the idea into his head. My breath shortens at the thought of searching for the Babalawo without him. Why would I? Kola glances at me over his shoulder, eyebrows raised. I told you I'd take you to the Babalawo. I wouldn't break my word. I nodded his response, feeling a warmth that turns into a smile, facing the sea to hide my expression. As Kola grasps the rope, his foot on the first rung, I look back, trying to see if I can spot the Oyo Ile cloth. I can't see the men, but my eyes rest on Oya just as she turns to me. She smiles again until her expression freezes. In 2 steps, she is next to me, the sheer fabric of her gown whispering around my legs, her fingernails digging into my arm. You must leave, she hisses. With a shove, she propels me closer to the side, and I stumble against the smooth rail, only to be hauled quickly to my feet by Oya. ʻEsu is coming. I can feel him. Sango may have summoned him, or one of the crew could have prayed to him, showing you in their pleas. Go, now! The Orisa's eyes hold me, the dread in them sharpening the silver. I spin away and scramble down the ladder, wondering how far away ʻEsu is. Kola stands, feet wide apart in the boat as he reaches up for me. My foot catches on a rung and my left hand slips. Careful! Kola steadies me with a hand to my waist. My heart is beating so fast that I'm not even annoyed at Kola for scolding me. I hook my foot back on the rung and hold tight to the sides of the ladder, the muscles in my arms and legs pulling uncomfortably. When I take the last step to reach the boat, Kola releases me. I'm beginning to think you like me catching you, he says with a grin, untying the rope. We need to go now, I say, my voice tight. Oya said ʻEsu is coming. Kola sees my face and his expression hardens. Spinning away from me, he grabs at the knots, unfurling the sail as the wind plucks at it. Purpling clouds are gathering, thick and fast in the direction we need to travel in, and the smell of rain is heavy in the air. We're behind the storm Oya created. He slides closer to me, pointing east. It's headed out faster than we can sail, but it'll give us enough wind power to get some distance between us and the ship. Quickly, I say, crouched in the middle of the boat as it pitches us from side to side. Our small vessel skims the top of the waves, moving away from the ship. The clouds are racing now, but their denseness still makes me nervous. I say nothing, eyes on the larger vessel, willing the distance between us to increase as the last of the day departs in swaths of orange and red. Soon the colors are swallowed by the darkness that begins to unfold across the sky. The ship disappears too, taking with it some of my attention. If ʻEsu is on board, at least they are heading away from us. Kola struggles with the sail, constantly adjusting it as he tries to keep the boat from spinning and tipping us into the waves. When the sun slips fully behind the horizon, the sea loses some of its wildness, flattening into a deep dark blue. I lean against the side of the boat as Kola finishes tying complicated-looking knots in the rope. Finally, he sits down, rolling his shoulders, glancing between the sea and me. Kola's large hands rest on his knees, and I remember the way he held my waist when I slipped down the ladder. The palms, both soft and rough, and his warm grip. I shiver. Are you cold? He asks. I shake my head and force my gaze away from Kola. I think of the crew united in their mission to save more than themselves, their courage reminding me of what Kola has also shown. Can I ask you something? I tuck my feet underneath me, holding on to their new soles. You can, Kola says, his voice even. How did you end up on the ship you were thrown from? I think of his words with Abayomi and my own memory of the hold. Kola's hands twist into fists, mouth pulling down in a gleam of fresh moonlight. For a moment I think he won't answer, and then he begins to speak, his brows knitted tightly. The Tapa from upriver waged war against us after we refused a trade. I wanted to prove myself to my father. I thought that if I could broker a peace between us, it would save many lives. And then? They killed some of the guards I was with and sold the rest, including me. Kola's eyes flash in the gloom. I was traded to another village before being bought by the Oyimbo. His words loosen something within me, but when I reach for it, it snakes out of my grasp. And that is the ship I was thrown from when you found me. I'm glad that Abayomi, Sango, and Oya will find it, destroy it. Shadows wreath Kola's face as the boat crests each night-darkened wave. I let the silence stretch, snatching looks at the boy who stares out at the rolls of water. This is part of the reason I need to get back home, he says finally. To see if my actions brought more than my own capture. What if the Tapa used me as leverage? What if my father has given in to their demands with me in mind? What if the Oyambo... Cola's face is wet. He can't finish, and his words are tightly spun with a pain that reflects the one buried inside me. He adjusts the knots of the ropes, even though they don't need it, and I see him wipe his cheeks. I saw your face on deck when we first boarded. What happened to you? How did you... I cast my mind back to when Yamoja had first given me purpose just months before, the seventh and last of the girls she remade in her image. I know I was on a ship like yours. The memory brought on by the sight of the hold courses through me once again, and I am silent for a moment before continuing, swallowing the pain and fear down for the moment. Mother Yamoja followed the Oyambo ships when the first people of our lands were taken a little while ago, mourning their loss. Some say she swam alongside, offering comfort, while others say she wrecked the vessels, freeing us all in one way or another. I run a hand down my leg, massaging the softness of my soles. The dull ache that has been spreading eases momentarily. But she did more than this for 7 of us. She created you. I nod. The rest you know. Yamoja always impressed the importance of our task on us. I was the only one who didn't listen. No, says Kola, leaning forward out of the shadows at the same moment that a cloud shifts, showing the earnestness of his expression. You were the one to find someone alive, to save them, save me. And now, because of that, you're doing even more. I think of what Kola has said, letting his words sink in. He smiles down at me, cheekbones sharp over his full lips, and I feel caught in his gaze. I look at our legs so close that if I were to move even an inch, they would be touching. Kola watches me, and for a moment it feels as if he's thinking the same, shifting his knees so that it briefly grazes mine. I freeze, my chest tightening as I hold my breath, my skin crackling at the barest brush of flesh. Keep the goal of this journey firmly in mind, and do not let yourself feel too much. Not for any human. Inhaling deeply, I draw back, pressing my spine against the wooden side of the boat and twisting away. I pretend to study the surface of the sea as moonlight splashes on the tallest waves before I sneak another look at Kola. The boy has his arms stretched along the rim of the vessel, looking relaxed, but he turns his gaze away from me, and for one silly moment I feel a flood of disappointment. Don't start overthinking, I tell myself. It clearly doesn't mean anything to him. Ruh-roh is right, Carrie. You are of the sea now. It is forbidden. And it can't mean anything to me either. I sigh and turn away from Kola, studying the rise and fall of the waves. The rings, they are what matter, I tell myself. Not this feeling that doesn't make sense, that can't make sense. I draw in a deep breath and turn back to Kola. Your family is clearly very important to you, for you to take such risks to get home. Kola doesn't reply straight away. He leans back, features dipping back into the shadows thrown by the sail. They are special, Kola answers in a low voice. My brother and sister doubly so. I can't help the smile that appears, mirroring the one that blooms on his face. Tell me about them. Twins, Kola exhales, lips still curved. Taiwo and Kahindi. Loud and kind, and the love in his tone softens the words, but then his face falls. They are unique in another way, too. I'm supposed to be there for their ceremony, performed by the Babalawo. The sea cuts him off suddenly before he can finish. A heaving mass of waves snatches at our boat, tossing us toward the sky in an angry crush of water. Clouds swerve unnaturally, rushing on a vicious wind and accompanied with a crash of thunder that shakes the very air. We cling on as the storm surges back, folding in on itself, and aims for us, straight in its path. Kola looks at me, confusion on his face. It was pulling away, he shouts above the wind that howls around us, reaching a feverish scream. Holding onto the boat, I flinch as spikes of lightning stab through the mass of clouds. Silver and blue, they dazzle against the dark sky. This storm is not natural, I think, remembering Oya's words. If Esu has commanded her to direct this at us, it means that he knows of me, perhaps even suspects that I'm looking for the same rings he is. I think of Oya, my certainty of her loyalty wavering, but I don't see why she would have warned me only to attack me. Maybe all it took was for one of the crew to describe me in their prayers, or maybe Sango saw my necklace before I hit it. Regardless, it's clear that this sudden storm is meant for us. Clinging to the side of the boat, I want to tell 𝚂𝚘 that we need to change direction, that the storm won't ease, not if 𝚂𝚘 is behind it, but it's too loud to make myself heard. The wind only snatches the words and eats them whole. The water roars as thunder booms, and then the sky is filled with shards of white light. 𝚂𝚘 is thrown backward into the boat as I squeeze my eyes shut. I could dive under the water, but 𝚂𝚘 wouldn't survive. The storm batters us with giant waves and blistering winds. The next peal of thunder seems even louder and forces us both to clap our hands over our ears as a large fork of glowing lightning hits the water next to us. Hold on, I scream as winds tear at us, rocking the little boat violently. Another crack and even the air feels as if it's on fire. See me, shouts 𝚂𝚘, grabbing me, his voice piercing the night as we tumble backward. We land in a pile of sea-slicked limbs as our mast, splintered and smoking, breaks free. I lean against the buoy, my breath caught, chest hitching as the hot smell of fire permeates the air. Smoke and ashes slide over my teeth and onto my tongue as I try not to swallow. The mast is smashed right through the hull, leaving us perched precariously on what is left of the boat. And then the lightning splits the sky open once again, blue and brilliant white energy that zigzags toward us, and I fall back onto 𝚂𝚘, sending us crashing into the waves. I keep hold of him as my tail forms, seeking the surface, dragging him with me. We gasp into a burning sea and sky, the water foaming around us. Our splintered boat careens on another wave, and as I hold 𝚂𝚘 against me, we stare up while clouds are tossed about among the stars, revealing the rind of a thin moon. The sea heaves again, picking up the shards of our boat, breaking them apart and showering the remnants down on our heads. Oh! All right. One more chapter for today. Chapter 11. I open my mouth to scream and wake up to a swollen sky and knots of seaweed. My ears are ringing and there is sand in my mouth. A flash of silver that ripped through the night. Thunder that made the whole world shake. The sea laps at my side, rushing over the scales of my tail as I blink my eyes open on a new day. All I can see is water and clouds. The brightness sharpens the pain in my head, and I close my eyes again, waiting until the worst passes. A burning sail and 𝚂𝚘's screams. 𝚂𝚘, where is he? Panic spikes in me when I think of him hurt, imagining his lifeless body sucked down into the deep or pushed against the beach. The sun is white hot and relentless as I scrabble in the sand, trying to haul myself out of the incoming tide. My head rings from the effort, and I lift an unsteady hand to my temple. I can't leave the water just yet. I'm not strong enough. I think of trying to find the Babalawo on my own, and doubt courses through me. I can't do this without 𝚂𝚘. Brown eyes wide in shock as the night was lit by the energy of the storm, the mast crashing down on our heads. The violence of the sea storm has shocked me, but really it's how vulnerable I was, only changing as the boat was smashed around us. Slow waves push me back and forth against the sand as I force the images from my mind and examine the shore. From the shallows, I can see that the beach is deserted, its bone-white sand stretching into the distance. The sea shows no hint of the viciousness it held last night. We've arrived at land, just not in the way we had planned. 𝚂𝚘, I croak, scanning the sliver of beach all the way to the tree line. There's an opening where a river feeds into the bay, and bobbing just to the side, charred splinters of wood. 𝚂𝚘! I push myself back into deeper water and swim toward the tributary, hating the sluggishness I feel. The ringing in my ears is gone, but I'm still weak enough that I must struggle with the surge of the current from the river. I swim until I get to what looks like part of the mast from our boat. Its edges are burned black, and shredded splinters show the force of the lightning that struck it. 𝚂𝚘! Concern taints my voice with a shrillness I'm unused to. I scan the beach and the narrow strip of earth that lines the river, and then I see it. A small scrap of blue farther up, half in the water. I swim deeper into the mouth of the river, eyes fixed on what looks like a torn part of 𝚂𝚘's wrapper. I pick it up, my hands shaking. It's definitely his, the same faded blue. 𝚂𝚘 must have gotten this far. He could have decided to use the water to navigate inland. I think of the wounds on his back and the way the storm battered even me. What will it have done to him? I need to find him. As I swim upriver, trees press in on either side, green and raw and alive. Flocks of birds, whose caws are as loud and bright as their fluorescent feathers, take flight from the tops of trees that seem as tall as the sky. The tributary shifts to brown, growing warmer as the bank turns to earth and grass. A movement below startles me, and I tense as a large catfish darts beneath my tail. While it is still water, the river is different than the sea, and I try to relax the tension that knots my muscles together. It's easier than land, I tell myself, as the current tugs at me. Cautious, I scan the forest as I go, hoping to see more signs of Kola, but wary of Esu and any Oyambo. The bank is full of low bushes with budding flowers that are just beginning to unfurl. There is still room for a person to walk next to the river, so I continue until I hear a sudden rustle. Leaves shake as something moves through the bushes. I place wet fingertips on the emerald of my dagger. Just as I'm about to slide it free from my braids, I freeze, staring open-mouthed at the creature standing on the narrow bank. Alexa, play the soundtrack to How the West Was Lost.
How the West Was Lost by 𝚂𝚘𝚘𝚢, featuring our 𝚂𝚘𝚛𝚢 on Amazon Music.
Silver gray hooves paw nervously at the earth, and two long pearlescent horns spiral backward from its head. With its squat, donkey-sized body, it does not at first resemble the magical creatures storytellers describe to children, but as I glide closer, it turns to look at me with turquoise eyes. An abada. It is said to be a harbinger of the lost. I don't doubt that it is showing itself to me for a reason. Kola. I try to swim even closer, but stop when the abada prances backward, eyes rolling. It is fine, little one. I won't hurt you. I murmur, my heart beating wildly. If the creature bolts, I doubt I'll be able to find it again. Abadas are only found when they want to be. I am about to emerge from the river when the animal snorts and trots down the bank a little. Its neigh is soft, almost like a sigh. The creature turns its head to look at me, and I slip back into the river and begin to swim alongside it. As the abada canters beside the water, I'm careful not to lose sight of it, especially when the creature is forced to weave in and out of the trees where the bank of the river is too narrow. Every so often, it pauses, checking to make sure I'm still following. We are deeper inland now, and the trees bend toward one another, stretching over the water, nearly blocking the sky and providing a cool relief from the mid-afternoon sun. The forest is louder. Looking up into the canopy, I catch sight of tiny birds that hover high above, their red and yellow faces peeping at me from behind the large leaves of banana trees. When the heat of the day grows to nearly oppressive levels, the abada stops at a split in the river where a smaller stream bends to the left. It paws at the ground in agitation. What is it? I whisper, sweat trickling from my brow. I want to duck underneath to cool myself, but I don't want to risk losing the abada. The creature neighs again. Kola, I call softly, hope coloring my words as I turn in a slow circle looking around. No answer. The abada neighs again, more loudly this time, before it treads carefully around the bushes and trots along the smaller waterway. Wait, I call, diving to catch up. Mud scrapes at my tail as the stream, just deep enough for me to swim, leads us farther into the forest. The quiet and gloom are disconcerting after the wider river, and I glance about uneasily. Even the bank is narrower, forcing the abada to prance in and out of the stony shallows. As we work our way down the stream, the trees cover the sun almost entirely, making shadows on the brown water and darkening the green of leaves. The bank is a sliver of black earth and stones, and I frown at the thought of Kola trying to navigate this part of the tributary. The abada ambles ahead of me, nimble even on the rocky ground. I start to have second thoughts about whether I should have followed it this far, and then I see the stream open out into a large pond. The abada emits another neigh, louder this time, as it heads toward the bushes that line the water. There are no bird calls or hoots now. I peer around as the silence grows. Keep moving, I think, as I heave myself from the water. My wrapper forms as I hunch over at the side of the pond, wet hair and skin glistening in the muted light. Please wait, I call to the abada as it moves between the bushes. As it does, not flinching when I reach for it. Thank you for bringing me this far, I murmur as I stroke its silken mane. Thanks for banning those guys. Wow. Jerks. That dude even had bully in his name. Because he is a bully. Holy cow. There are no bird calls or hoots now. I peer around as the silence grows. Keep moving, I think, as I heave myself from the water. My wrapper forms as I hunch over at the side of the pond, wet hair and skin glistening in the muted light. Please wait, I call to the Abada as it moves between the bushes, and it does, not flinching when I reach for it. Thank you for bringing me this far, I murmur as I stroke its silken mane. The creature can't be taller than my shoulders, but its horns are almost twice its height, curving backward, glowing in a shaft of sunlight that pierces the canopy. It is said that an Abada's horns have the power to cure disease or counteract any poison. The creature turns to me with its turquoise eyes, silvered around the edges, and I feel a sense of calm flooding through my mind. I run a hand down its withers, and the Abada tosses its head in pleasure, allowing me a moment more of its attention before it presses forward through overgrown bushes. I follow, the shadows deepening as we move farther inland. Yeah, that was juvenile behavior. I agree. This part of the forest is humid, the heat trapped beneath the canopy above. The ground is damp beneath my feet, deep with decomposing leaves and soft black earth. A large gray spider with a yellow stripe down its back and red eyes scuttles past, and I take even more care where I'm treading, measuring my steps and getting used to the rhythm of walking again. As the Abada pushes past a bush with oversized purple flowers and a scent that reminds me of honey, I hear a sound that makes me stop. A faint pounding of drums. As thick and fast as my pulse, the sound grows louder until the ground feels as if it's shaking beneath the soft soles of my bare feet. The Abada comes back to stand beside me and then nudges me forward, its muzzle and breath warm on my back until I stumble through the bushes and find myself looking out onto a large glade. The hot curve of the sun slides behind the tree line, and in the middle of the wide open space, people are dancing, weaving between grasses almost as tall as they are small. Tiny people. With silver hair braided into long plaits, they whirl almost frantically to the beat of a dozen gangan drums. Small hands beat sticks against the taut skin, a blur that produces a rhythm I've never heard before. And there in the middle of the clearing, laid on a bed of dried grass and draped in white cloth, is Kola. The beat of the drums covers my gasp of surprise. His eyes are closed and his arms are folded over his chest. His feet stick out from the end of the cloth, and I remember the paleness of his soles when I first found him in the water. Lifeless, he is laid out as if ready for his last prayers, and something inside me shatters. I swallow hard and creep forward, trying to get a better look. The Abada snorts suddenly behind me, and I jump, tripping over a rotting tree trunk and stagger into the clearing. The drums stop. The dancers freeze, their plaits cascading down narrow backs. Turning almost as one, they regard me with pale, golden eyes. Yumbos, I whisper. All right. I see some raffle tickets. 2 for Julie and 1, 2, 3, 4 for Teresa. So what do you think? One more chapter? I'm willing to do one more. Now why did Ipotrans get banned? He was calling them juvenile. Did he say something that I missed? All right, one more chapter. Chapter 12. I scramble backward to stand at the edge of the glade as the Yumbos stare at me. No higher than my hip, with gleaming ebony skin encased in ivory wrappers and silver hair and skinny plaits, the fairies number at least 100. Backing away, I press against the Abada, trying to remember what I know about Yumbos. Also known as the Bakna Rakna, good people, the fairies live underground in secret hills, fishing and stealing corn from humans. They are not a threat, I remember that much, especially if they show themselves to you, which is very rare. Kola, I call as I edge closer. The abata is warm behind me, its hide prickly against my skin. If it's not scared, then I shouldn't be, I tell myself, and I take another step forward. Kola does not stir, and I hold my breath as I scan his chest, looking for movement. The yumbos don't try to stop me as I wind my way through the throng. A small boy with tiny plates twisted with silver bows as he moves from my path, and I feel my nerves ease slightly. He is not dead, says the yumbo, his golden eyes crinkling as he grins at me. His words offer me a brief respite from worry until I see again how still Kola appears. Are you sure? I ask, pressing forward. The boy follows me, skipping to catch up as I reach the bed of grass. I found him after the storm in the sea. I persuaded my grandfather to bring the rest of the boats to help, and we pulled him from the bay. As I get closer to Kola, I start to see the rise and fall of his chest. Relief weakens my legs, and I stumble again, this time barely catching myself. Why is he laid out like this? I thought. We are singing and dancing for his health. The yumbo boy is at my side still. He leans over and pokes Kola's stomach lightly. He ate and then lost consciousness again, but he should wake up soon. The beat of the drums begins, and the yumbos start to dance around the abata. The creature prances among them, tossing its mane. I sit by Kola, watching as small feet produce complicated rhythms and silvered plates glitter in the sunlight. It is when they begin to sing that I start to smile. Almost as one, their voices blend together, high and sweet, a prayer of good health and luck, their blessing filling the clearing and my heart with joy. The yumbos continue to dance, small hands thrown to the sky as they stamp their feet to the beat of the gangan drums. See me? Kola's eyes open as he shifts, and the cloth slips from his chest. He tries to sit up, and I hear the hiss that escapes his lips. See the way he holds his left side. A large bump has formed on his forehead, but other than that, he is uninjured. How did you get here? He asks, eyes flitting over me. Are you hurt? I am well, I answer. I'm so grateful that Kola is alive that I almost reach out to smooth his hair and feel the warmth of his skin for myself. I woke up on the shore. All that was left of the boat was splinters. I thought... I slide my gaze away. I was worried about you too, says Kola. At his words, I feel a warmth bloom inside me. The yumbos saved me. I saw them in the water. See me, I swear I thought they were sent by one of the Ajogun before they dragged me from the sea. Kola grins. Which warrior? Death? Why not? Mamiwata, Sango, and Oya? What next? This is the second time you've nearly died, I say, looking down at the curve of Kola's lips. Are you trying to make this a habit? Passing in the sea? And with those words, I'm reminded that I am not the same as him. I wouldn't die in the sea. I wouldn't drown, but Kola could. He is human, and I am not. For a moment, this is all I can think of. Nearly dying, I confirm, looking away. I tell myself that I only care because Kola's death would mean that the sacrifice I made was for nothing, but the thought of it makes my heart beat hard against the cage of my chest. See me. Kola sits up as the drums build to a crescendo, the sheet falling from his body. You are awake, exclaims the same Yumbo boy who had told me Kola was alive earlier. No taller than my knee, he runs over and beams at us, his face turned up at Kola as if he were the sun. Grinning widely, the Yumbo comes closer, teeth shining like tiny pearls. He bows again, right leg crossed over the other as he lowers his head and places a tiny fist against his heart. I am Isa, and I am the one who found you. The Yumbo flattens a hand on Kola's chest, pushing him back down. You must rest. Save your strength for when it is time to eat. He fusses with the sheet around Kola, clucking like a mother hen. Now that you are awake, I will fetch my grandfather and some food. Sure, Julie. That'd be great. I could use those from now on. Yeah, thanks, Julie. We're planning on going tomorrow. When he's satisfied that Kola is tucked up properly, Issa runs off, shouting loudly about fish and scattering other Yumbos as he flaps his arms. He returns almost immediately, accompanied by an older Yumbo with amber eyes and long silver gray plates. Welcome! My name is Salif. He bows, a hand splayed on his bony chest. We are grateful and blessed to have you both as guests. Only people chosen by the Yumbos can even find this clearing, unless you are otherworldly. And then the Abada will choose whether it leads you here. Like calls to like. Salif catches my eye before his gaze goes to my feet. We have come across Mami Wata before in the seas. Yamoja has always blessed us with our fishing. Please thank her next time you summon her. I nod once, scuffing my feet in the dirt as Issa looks up at me shyly. Join us and eat. My grandson would be most upset if you did not, continues Salif, patting Issa's shoulder. And if we can help you in any way, we will discuss it then. Thank you, I answer, as Kola murmurs his agreement. Salif darts away, calling out orders, and we are left with Issa, who sits next to Kola. The smell of spiced food floats across the clearing from a bank of fires, where several yumbos oversee the preparation of an enormous catfish, baking slowly at the outer edge of the burning coals. Wooden tables are set up with small, narrow benches under the largest tree that leans over the glade. Smaller yumbos flit about, decorating by adding purple flowers with golden centers. Others dig at the edge of the clearing, excavating buried flasks of palm wine. Carefully, they fill the cups set out, not spilling a drop. As the yumbos take their places at the tables, Issa leads us to a bigger log that has been set out for us to sit on. Kola's side seems not to be paining him as much, and even the lump on his head has subsided somewhat. He catches me examining him, and I look away quickly. Salif remains standing. He claps his hands together 3 times, and the yumbos look up from their seats, eyes glowing the color of dark honey. We are honored today to have not one, but 2 special guests. Salif remains standing, smiling at us. As you all know, we rescued one from the sea and its black rocks, and the other was brought to us by the sacred Abada. Let us all eat and drink together. He raises his glass and takes a large gulp of palm wine. Si awon olofire to the lucky ones. Si awon olofire. Olorir. Olorir. The yumbos hold their wooden cups up, and Kola nudges me to do the same. I do, until I see the food arrive and nearly spill my drink. What is that? I ask, as steaming dishes of fish that seem to float along head our way. Food, Issa answers brightly, giggling at my shock. We have helpers, but ones which you will never see. Well, not all of them anyway. The silver platters bob in the air, weaving round tree roots as they make their way to the tables. Deep brown hands hold the trays of food with thick fingers, but I can't see anything else of the strange creatures. Who's holding it? Issa grins and points at a matching set of brown feet, which pick their way across the forest floor. They are invisible apart from their hands and feet. We call them Oluran Lowo, helper. Altogether, I count 10 helpers who lay more platters of corn and peppered catfish on the long table. 2 others come with smaller calabashes of water to wash our fingers and more flasks of palm wine. I can't take my eyes off the bobbing hands and am relieved when they have served the food and disappear. Don't worry, the Olorano Lowo are conjured beings, summoned only when the yumbos find certain tasks difficult or need help. Kola grins at my face, nudging his cup against mine with its smooth wooden side. Drink your wine. It will make Salif happy. Bakna Rakna consider 1 guest to be a gift, but 2 is a veritable blessing. I take a sip and my mouth puckers as my eyes water. Its sourness too much for me. Strong? I'm glad the cups are small, I say, and Kola bursts into laughter. His laugh is loud and sweet, and I realize it's the first time I've heard it. I take another cautious sip, but this time I don't wince. Around us, the yumbos strip the fish with their fingers, placing white fillets in tiny mouths. Issa sits beside Salif and chatters away, bits of corn smeared around his mouth. How do you know all this, I ask. The helpers, the customs. Kola looks slightly sheepish. I loved the tales of the elders. I always listened, and then I would tell them to Taiwo and Kahindi. A story always helped them sleep. His small smile contains so much love that I feel my mouth forming one too. Never did I think they were real or that I'd be sharing food with them. He takes another sip of his drink. But then I didn't think other things were real, and... Here I am, I finish. So tell me, I say, folding the nervous quiver of my hands in my lap. What were your favorite stories? Of the ones you used to listen to? Pretending you were only there for the twins. I nudge him with my shoulder. Which ones did you beg for? Kola pushes the bones of his fish to the side and lifts the golden corn, biting some off and chewing. I can tell he's taking the time to think carefully. When he is done, he lifts his head and looks straight at me. Tales of Orissa, of course. There are over 400 Yoruba gods. Be more specific, I tease, finishing the last of my wine. I set the cup down, vowing never to drink something as foul again. From the other end of the table, Salif sees me and lifts his glass, grinning. At least he's enjoying it, I think. Which Arisa's story do you think I asked for the most? How about Osun? There is no one more loving or beautiful, Kola says, but not her. Osanyin, god of plants and healing. Kola shakes his head. I'll give you one last guess. I turn to watch some of the Yumbos who have left their seats and have begun to dance again, most with wooden cups of wine still clutched in their hands. The humidity of the forest seems not to affect them as they spin and turn, sunlight skittering from their skin and the precious metal in their hair. What about Ori? I say finally. Truth be told, Kola's favorite story could be one of dozens, especially since the power and origins of Orisa are changeable depending on whom you speak to. Ogun, he is my ancestral Orisa. Kola takes another sip of his drink and grins, his lips wet with wine. And my favorite. In my village, the elders used to tell the story of Ogun before anyone went out to hunt. Kola leans toward me, elbows on his knees, his leg brushing against mine. I love his strength. And his weapons, no doubt, I say. The Orisa is famous for his blacksmithing skills. Well, yes, but it is more than that. He is honorable. Ogun deals with justice and oaths. Kola shifts next to me, placing his cup on the table. I swore to the twins and to the rest of my family that I would always protect them. We are silent a moment. His hand is next to mine on the table, and my fingers twitch, wanting to touch his. To comfort. We both have responsibilities, those we want to protect. I think of the scars on Yamoja's face, my shoulders slumping at the thought of anything else happening. I won't fail her. And you will, I say. We'll leave after we have eaten. In fact, I'm sure Salif can tell us the fastest way to get to your village. What's the name? Kola pauses and I don't take my eyes from him. Will he keep this from me even now? Oko, he answers. My village is called Oko. I nod, rolling the name in my mind, more pleased than I can admit that he has told me, has trusted me. Let's see if the Yumbos can direct us. Salif sees me craning my neck, looking for him. He pushes the last of the peppered catfish into his mouth and then jumps up and makes his way over to us, followed by Isa. Salif motions, one small hand chopping the air, and a large flask of wine hovers over to us, carried by strong brown hands. No! I clamp my hand hastily over the rim of my cup and try to soften the move with a smile. Thank you. The elder Yumbo bows to us. As you wish. Salif, do you know of a village called Oko, near to the mouth of the river Ogun? Kola leans forward, eager. They mainly trade in fish, with some corn in the later summer. Yes, I know of it. Salif tips his head back, finishing his drink. A bountiful village. Is this where you are headed? We are, I answer. How far would you say it is? If you left now, you would reach it by morning. I rotate my ankle, pointing my toes to stretch my thigh muscles. I'm not sure how well my legs will serve me on an entire nighttime's worth of walking. Have you or any of the others been there recently? Asks Kola. The Yumbo sets his empty cup on the table. We have not heard anything about Oko. No. Although... Salif doesn't finish his sentence, his voice cut off along with other Yumbos. They freeze as one, and even Isa, tucked next to Kola, stopped chewing his food, his mouth hanging open, a solitary piece of corn clinging to his bottom lip. I look around us, and Kola does too, the same confusion I feel rippling across his face. Gently, he shakes Isa, who doesn't respond, his amber gaze remaining unfocused. Salif shudders once, his whole body quivering before he folds over, a loud keening noise coming from his open mouth. The rest of the Yumbos do the same, eyes closing as they cry out. Those who have been twirling to the beat of the drum fall to the ground, tiny bodies and silver plates scattered in small mounds across the glade. What is it? Asks Kola, his voice rough as he peers down at Isa. Are they all right? I don't know, I answer. There's a small, unsettling tug in my stomach, but it's nowhere near as strong as what is happening to the Yumbos. I bend down to touch a hand to Isa, but he does not respond, eyelashes metallic bright against the brown of his cheeks. I walk into the center of the clearing, bending down to check each Yumbo that I can, the unease in my stomach growing, tightening. They're all breathing, I say, straightening up to turn back to Kola, but he's not there. I am surrounded by a forest of black trees, their gnarled branches clawing at a sky the color of fresh bruises. A thick, unnatural silence blankets everything, and the stench of rot and death hangs in the air, catching in the back of my throat and making me retch. Spinning, I stagger, crying out with pain as I look down at the dark earth. I am standing on shards of tiny fairy bones, splintered in the gloom of the dead forest. A tide of sorrow grabs at me, and I bend over, clutching at my stomach. "Cola!" I scream, inching backward, hands at my mouth. But there is no one to answer me. Only desiccated plants and the remains of the yumbos in bleached white fragments that litter the ground. I am running then, tearing past charcoal trees, slipping on the remains that I don't want to see. The forest opens up, sloping down rolling hills that join fields dotted black with the stiff stalks of dead crops. The corpses of cows and goats decompose gently in the sun, its heat and light the only vibrant thing in this landscape. Spotting a wall that surrounds multiple compounds, I head toward the village, my heart beating faster. Slowing down, I pass through flung open gates carved with images of the sea and lush crops. When I see them, I stop, breath burning in my chest. The dead. The villagers lie on the red earth, mouths open in final screams, hands in claws, skin hanging in dark folds. Sores and bones and ribs poke through wrappers. I squeeze my eyes shut and open my mouth, screaming until my throat is scraped dry. "See me! See me!" I open my eyes to Cola's, his thick eyebrows drawn together in a frown of concern. Sobbing, I push my face against his chest as he holds me until I stop gasping and crying. "What is it? What happened?" I saw, but I don't have a chance to finish. A loud collective gasp fills the air, and as one, the yumbos sit up, faces blank, nectar-colored eyes blinking, their gazes soft and unfocused. Issa begins to cry, and Kola releases me to wrap an arm tight around the yumbo. "Salif," Kola murmurs, "what was that? What just happened?" The elder yumbo takes in deep breaths, smoothing his plaits back, gold and silver twined around each braid. We are connected to the earth. Salif fills his cup with unsteady hands. Anything that upsets the balance of it, we feel. He drains the palm wine and swallows. "Did you see anything?" I ask, gulping in air, heavy with the despair of my vision. I force in a deep breath, calming the tremble of my legs. "Something has happened," states Salif, filling his cup again, his hands shaking enough for him to spill some of the palm wine. "What do you think it could be?" I ask, thinking of when the storms at sea form, the feeling I get, the scent in the air, the feeling of something coming. I think of the bones I stood on in my vision, the dead crops and the twisted corpses in the village. Cola's face is ashen as he looks at me. I think I know. He turns to Salif, his words slow and heavy. "The twins, 𝚂𝚘𝚤 and 𝚂𝚘𝚛𝚢." "What do you mean?" I ask, frowning now. None of this is making much sense. Kola shifts on the bench and places his hands flat on the table in front of him. He takes a deep breath. "They are 𝚂𝚘𝚙." "Orisa?" I ask, the word rising with my surprise. I think of what I know of the twin gods, one soul in both bodies, Orisas of glee and mischief as well as abundance. Their presence brings happiness and health to people and life to the lands they live in. Close enough. The 𝚂𝚘𝚙 have manifested in 𝚂𝚘𝚤 and 𝚂𝚘𝚙. The Babalawo prophesied it. Kola brings his hands together, squeezing a fist with the long fingers of his other hand. With their birth came a time when Oko truly flourished, as well as the land all around it. "This is why we settled here," adds Salif, his hands gesturing around him. "We had heard that there was 𝚂𝚘𝚙 power within these grounds, and when we arrived here, we felt it. My family kept this quiet. Not even the villagers knew. There is to be a ceremony to confirm and protect them. I was supposed to be there to make sure they were safe until it was done." Kola turns to Salif, bending down so he can look him in the eye. "Could that be what you have sensed?" I hear the hope in his voice, but Salif shakes his head. Such a ceremony would only confirm and establish their power. What I felt, what we all felt, was a severing of some kind. "What if something has happened to 𝚂𝚘𝚤 and 𝚂𝚘𝚙? What if I'm too late?" Kola runs both hands over his face, fingers snagging on his lower lip. "What if they're dead?" And that concludes chapter 12. Carrie says I'm going to need some lemon honey tea. Yeah. Thanks for those tickets, Julie. I'm glad y'all are enjoying it. December, thanks for banning those fools for me. Thank you, Teresa. Can't wait till next week to read more. Holy cow. What a wonderful book. All right, time to go. Now, if you missed any of the reading, you'll be able to catch the replay on my YouTube channel. Just look for the playlist, Skin of the Sea. I actually just ordered 100 bags of lemon ginger tea, Julie. They should be here any day. Found a good deal on Amazon. All right, Julie's redeeming another raffle ticket. Okay, so that's 3 for Julie and 4 for Teresa, right? Yeah, I sense a mermance coming on, for sure. How far did we get in the book? 12 chapters, so 37% of the book. Yep. Page 119 we're on. 118 pages in 3.5 hours. Yeah. Cool. So the book that we've been reading is called Skin of the Sea, and it is by Natasha Bowen. You can find it on Amazon or in bookstores if you'd like to get your own copy. And you can catch anything you might have missed on the replay on my YouTube channel, which has been dropped in the chat numerous times, I believe. Or you can just type !YT to get my YouTube link. Go subscribe, hit the notification bell. I hope you have a wonderful day too, Teresa. Thank you all for being here. So what's my next stream? Karaoke Monday, 3 p.m. Eastern. Hope to see you all there. Now, let me just make sure. 3 raffle tickets for Julie, 4 raffle tickets for Teresa today. Am I correct? All right. All right. Have a wonderful day. Peace out, Pride-a-Doodles.